Hey guys, welcome to a new pick a card. This pick a card is all about the new year. This is about 2023. So we're going to go into what to expect in 2023. We have lots of stuff in store for you. Basically, it's a pick a pile. And so each pile has a different tarot deck. And then in each pile, they also have a different crystal, which I'll hold up in just a second. But all of these piles, when we go through them, we will start with like a year overview and then we'll break it down into like the different quarters. We have 3 different months per quarter, and so there's going to be 4 of them, but they'll go really fast. They just have a tarot card and an oracle card per month to kind of give us the theme of the month. And then we will go into, at the end, we'll draw some special songs to kind of give you a playlist for the year. So we have a lot in store. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold up each of these crystals to help you kind of figure out which one you vibe with. And I'm going to talk just slightly about what each one is, just so that you kind of have some idea of their energy. And then hopefully that'll help you pick a pile. So we're going to start with pile 1, which is over here. It's the Mystic Mondays Tarot deck. And then the crystal that we have is called Crazy Lace Agate. And this one actually kind of looks like it has like a little cat. I don't know if you can see it there. But basically, this crystal is really, really good for bringing in happiness, bringing in harmony. It's really good at warding off negative energy and can help a lot with pain, like emotional pain, not necessarily physical pain. It's also really good for people that have ADHD. It can help you focus. So that's a benefit as well. So that's pile 1. Pile 2 is this one right here. This one has clear quartz on it. So clear quartz is all about clarity. Clear quartz is also very, very good for new beginnings, new starts. It's kind of that really good, clean beginning of the year. Cleanses space, cleanses your energy, and it's very, very good at finding clarity as well. So that's pile 2. Pile 3 over here has moss agate on it, which is a very nurturing and grounding stone. It's also green, so it has to do with the heart chakra. It's very, very good at balancing, and it's also very good at nurturing. And so that pile, that crystal is more about like the nurturing, calming, grounding effect. It's really, really good for earth signs as well. So if you have an earth sign and you're drawn to that, that might be your pile. And then the 4th pile over here has rose quartz on it, which rose quartz is all about the heart. It's also a very nurturing stone, but it is slightly lighter in the sense that it's very much about having that light energy, that more airy energy, but it's also very emotional energy. And so this also has to do with love. It has to do with compassion. It's very, very good when you're needing to have more compassion for yourself and for others, as well as kind of, since it's a quartz, it's also very good at clearing out, but specifically when it comes to things like emotions, relationships, romance, that kind of stuff as well. So those are the 4 different piles that we have. And then, of course, Laina and I are both here. And so whatever pile you pick, we will have the both of us. And then we'll go into what your year is going to be all about. What are the themes for that year? And so we're really excited and hope to see you in your pile.
See you there, guys.
Hey guys, if you picked pile 1, then you picked the Mystic Mondays Tarot deck, and you also picked this crystal, which is Crazy Lace Agate, which if you did not pick based on the crystal, this crystal is used specifically for emotional healing, protection from other energies, from like negative energies. It's also helpful with emotional pain, but it's supposed to help bring joy and focus and harmony into your life. It's really good for people that have ADHD as well. And so if you chose this pile, those are some themes that you may have that come with this crystal. And then we have a Mystic Mondays deck. So what we're going to start with is your year overview. So we're going to talk about what can you kind of expect for 2023? What are some of the themes? And then it's just an overall spread for the first part. And then we'll go into and separate it into 4 different sections, 3 months per section, and talk about the first 3 months and then the second 3 months and so on and so forth. So we have all of our cards actually pre-shuffled for this group. Well, for all the groups, but for this group too. And then at the end, once we're done with all of the tarot and oracle cards, we'll actually draw out enough songs that you can make a little playlist for 2023 that you can kind of listen to, and that can give you some more information about themes or things that you can experience during the year. So we're going to go ahead, and Laina's doing channeled messages too for this group, but I'm going to lay out these cards for you. So we're going to go ahead and start with your year overview energy wise, and then we'll kind of talk about that and then have channel messages too. So for the first part, you have the tarot card of the year, which is the King of Swords. So that's your year energy as far as tarot goes. And then these are all kind of clarifiers. So you have the Democrat, which is the Carolina rose for the archetype for this year. You have, and I cannot say this, I've tried. It's I believe it's Mitragenia. Mitragenia. I'm not 100% sure. It's number 34, shape shifting. It has to do with Saturn and Neptune as well. So those are planets that could be important. You have the wolf and the rose hip, which is about guardianship, but we'll explain that in further detail. Simplicity. You have codes of the seeds, which is the blueprint is within you. Take the next step. And then the last card that you guys got was Rose, which is number 41. And so I'll have Laina do her channel messages, and then we'll kind of talk about the year and how that all relates together.
Okay, so far what you guys got that came through was the first message that I got when Bekah was shuffling the cards was like about a tea parlor slash a tea shop. Um, for some of you, this could be like that you might find a new tea parlor or a tea shop that has some significance to you, or just there's some significance around tea. For some of you, I'm getting that like either you are starting a business, like, or you've always wanted to own a tea shop or a tea parlor, and like this can go either way in the sense of just for some, it's like it feels like it's kind of leaning more towards like boba tea or um like a little coffee type esque place. And then for some of you, it is leaning more towards that parlor with like cucumber sandwiches, hot tea, scones, like, you know, pastries, like things like kind of more in that direction. So it's very split. Um, it feels very much like it's a specific message for somebody. For whatever reason, Spirit says somebody named something with an A, maybe like Alice or something. But that could be a message for you specifically. Um, uh, Either that or it could have to do with Alice in Wonderland, just because I know that has to do with teacups and stuff, and there could be a correlation there. So maybe that's a favorite movie of yours, just to kind of give you confirmation that the pile is for you. But they're very focused on the tea shop and the tea parlor, and I'm not sure why. It could be a significant place for you for some reason. Then we also got the name Daphne that came through. Then daffodils, a tattoo sleeve. So like if you've been wanting a tattoo sleeve, like you might get one, or you may meet someone who has a tattoo sleeve that could be important in your life. April showers bring May flowers. And then the last thing that I have for right now is Chocolate by Snow Patrol, which is a great song.
That is a great song. Yeah, so those could all be things that could be confirmation for you that this is the right pile, or they just could be very specific messages. Now, overall, this group does have an energy, and we're going to kind of talk about what that is. There is a really strong theme of roses in this group, regardless. The rose, this has rose hips, this flower. It does specifically talk about the rose. It is a rose, obviously. And then when I was looking up, because I did read a little bit about the other cards as well. This Codes of the Seeds talks about rose seeds, like planting rose gardens. And so that also has roses. So roses could be really important to this group in some way, shape, or form. Just to throw that out there. Rose is also the flower of love. So that kind of gives me an idea that in this group there is some talk about relationship, but I'm going to kind of go into that because it's not like there's not an overarching theme of romance, though, even though it is the rose and the rose is very romantic. This group, there's a lot around leadership. There's a lot about being a role model. There's a lot about communicating, but it's also about back and forth. And so there's a call for this group to really lean on the people that they are around. There's a call for this group to have that unit, that family unit, and to rely on the people that you trust when you need to. And so there's this opening up or this shifting in your life where you're having to not only be a role model, but you also have to understand that as a role model, you're not alone and that you do have a group of people that you can rely on. And so there's kind of this theme around figuring out how to do both is kind of the overarching theme, but there is a lot about simplicity. There's a lot about not overthinking, not overcomplicating things, and allowing yourself to kind of go through this new rebirth process it's very much like this group. I feel like there's a lot of people going through a lot of different things, but the overall theme is the fact that you are becoming that role model. You are someone who's supposed to share and who's supposed to live your journey in a way that is able to help others, but by being that role model, that part of the family that takes kind of that initiative and that is able to protect and care for others. Um, there's also a call to be open. Feathers, which this is a white feather on the simplicity card, which I'll hold that back up. But a feather is actually a very spiritual symbol. And then this Mitra Genia card, when we talk about this card, it talks about the dragonfly as well, because this plant is very closely associated with the dragonfly. And both of those are very spiritual symbols. You even have Neptune on this card as well. There's a lot here about maybe opening up to things that maybe you aren't necessarily fully open to yet. Being open minded, kind of knowing that you might have a lot of serendipities or you might have a lot of things that you can't explain logically that happen, which makes sense if you're in that King of Swords energy. That King of Swords is very logical, very smart, very, very good at communicating, very good at finding clarity, but he doesn't have that groundedness or that ability to be quite as open to things as some of the other kings do. But this is saying that you are in that leadership position, you are going to be communicating, and so you need to make sure that you're keeping yourself open and keeping yourself able to both be that role model again and be open to other people's ideas, other people's support, other people's opinions. And you might be surprised at the things that kind of flow into your life because you're going through this shape shifting or this change or this rebirth this year.
I definitely agree with that. I think this is going to be a very transformative year for you guys, and depending on who you pick, like not who you pick, I'm sorry, depending on who you are, like it's going to be different for each of you. So for some of you, like there is going to be that focus that, like this leadership could be more in a career sense. This leadership could come more in a family sense. Like maybe there is, a need to like step up in the family matters. Like maybe you and your person are going to have a baby, so you like become the leader of the family, you know what I mean, like head of household type energy. There's like the vibes of some people, getting a promotion at work and becoming like a team leader, and there are vibes of people who are, like Becca said, balancing, who are figuring out, okay, how do I continue to like rise in my career and also go after these other things that I want and spread my leadership like further. So it's just a very cool like transformative cycle for you guys. It's like there's going to be a lot of change. You will not be the person that you are at the beginning of 2023 will not be the same person that you are at the end of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I forgot to mention, so with this Democrat card, this rose that's up here, there is actually a lot about balance, like I said, but there's also a lot about fairness. This is a year 7, like when we're looking at numerology, it's a 7 year. Obviously each person's at a different cycle, so like your year is going to be different. Like if you have a life path 7, it'll be different than someone who has like a life path 2. But as far as like the overall theme, it's a 7 year, which does have to do with spirituality. It does have to do with the seventh house as well, which is about fairness and partnerships and balance and things like that. And so I wanted to point that out just because of the fact that that's a very important theme for this group, and that we're finding that that actually really aligns with the numerology that's happening this year as well. And then while Elena was talking, I forgot to mention with the wolf. The wolf is a lone animal, which he's a very lone animal when you think about like the King of Swords, because he, again, is that leader. He's the one that's kind of in charge. But the wolf specifically, even though a wolf, you can see them as like a lone wolf, they have packs. They travel in packs, they have their family. And that's why that card is so important, because it does talk about, hey, even though you're kind of in that leadership position, you're in a pack, and so it's important to keep that in mind as well. Like Lena said, like you are becoming the leader of something, and there has to do with other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so that's our overall theme. So that's kind of the vibes that you're working with. Now we're going to kind of break it down a little further than that. So what we did is we actually pulled cards for each month, but we did it in quarters. Yeah. So there's 4 quarters in a year, and each quarter is made up of 3 months. Usually they kind of correlate to the seasons. We started obviously in January and then we ended in December. So I'm going to pull the first 3 months out first. And then each month has a tarot and an oracle. So for the first month, you have the Empress. And then you got 7th house with her, which I just talked about that. The 7th house is the house of balance, fairness, relationships, partnerships of any shape and kind, whether that be business partnerships, romantic partnerships, best friends also kind of fall into that house as well. For February, you have the High Priestess with Solar Calm, which is it's clarify, which this is 16. I forgot to say this is 45. So 9, 7, and then 7 again. So those could be important numbers, 9 and 7. You also have for March, you have the Death card, which don't panic. That's a great card. I actually really love the Death card. And you got that with square, semi-square, or quincunx, which are tension placements, which again is 54, which is 9 again. So 7 and 9 seem to be the numbers for this group. Stick that one like that. So we're going to kind of talk about what these mean as far as themes go for the first 3 months, which basically what I'm feeling right off the bat is you're kind of starting this year in a place of feminine energy, of nurturing, of kind of working with that energy. And it has to do with your relationships, with your partnerships, with fairness, with balance. But I feel like you're going to be getting a lot of clarity, and you're going to be going through, as you progress through the first 3 months, you're going to be going through this new beginning. Like I said, you're kind of coming out of this like with a rebirth. And even though you're starting in a really great position, like now you're going up to the even next level, because all 3 of these are major arcana too. So when we have major versus minor arcana, major arcana are major life themes or major life events that are happening, and you can't really do anything about them. Like they're just kind of out of your control. They're meant to happen and they're going to happen. And you can't, like, your choices aren't necessarily going to change them too much. Now minor arcana, you kind of have a little more control over because you get more choice in the matter. And so they may or may not happen that way, or you have a little more control of how you react to them or how they kind of play out. So this is important to note that the beginning of the year is extremely important for you. It's a very transformational time. It's a time where you need to stay grounded. It's a time where you need to be open, to be connected as well, because the High Priestess is super connected, and you'll get that clarity that you need to help you move through this end of a cycle. And so for you, it's like the first 3 months are literally like you going through the process of grounding yourself in the middle of this cycle that's been ending. And so it's like you're getting ready to kind of jump into like something new after March, because this, whenever the Death card comes out, it always tells me like, oh, we're ending a cycle, so there's a new one that's beginning.
Yes. I don't really like to give these kinds of messages, but I have to because I saw it very vividly. So I want to give a trigger warning right now that I'm going to be briefly mentioning death. And I don't want to upset anyone. And this is not like, first of all, let me say, this is not like, oh, you're dying, like type. This is not, it's not that. This feels like a relative of someone who passed away by either falling like to their potential death, or maybe even potentially jumping to their potential death. Um, and they have this message that's coming through really strongly that they're going to be an very strong guide for you this year, because they don't want you to make the same like choices that they made that got them to where they were, to where they passed away. And they want you to like prosper and grow. I'm trying to see if they're willing to give me like any specifics. This person feels like they are male in energy, but keep in mind that energy can come off more masculine, even if this is a feminine, even if this was a person who identified as a woman that you knew. like because there's no, true gender. But when it comes to energy, but this energy does feel more masculine. Um, I'm trying to, yeah, they said to look out for like symbolism of deer when they're to know that they're with you. That's the message that they're giving me. It's like they're being very, very elusive in the message that they're giving me, and I feel like that's because it's just for like maybe just one of you listening to this, maybe a couple of you, but it feels like it's just this message is just for one person, and the deer is going to mean something to you specifically. So I just want to put that out there. I'm sorry to get a little heavy for a second, but that message was coming through so strong that I could not focus on anything else.
Yeah. So, but for the rest of you who are not, I don't see anything about like death or dying. So don't be like, what does that mean? Is someone going to die around? Like, not necessarily. So usually when we see the death card, it's not like a negative omen. It just means that a cycle is ending. And so for those of you that are not that specific person, don't panic. It just means that you're going through the ending of a cycle or starting a new one. There could be some tension around that, obviously, because it's hard to let go. But that's why you're getting prepared with the grounding and with the opening up to maybe something more spiritual, or opening up just in general to kind of asking and seeking support and knowing, when do I rest? When do I go? That kind of stuff is really, really important when you're going through this ending, so that you can kind of work with that tension and not fight against the current when that happens.
Hmm.
So we'll move on to the second part here. So we're going to move on to the next 3 months, obviously. So we just ended with March, which means we're going to start with April. So in April, you have the Knight of Wands, which the Knight of Wands is usually pretty quick moving energy. I usually take that as things are going to be moving pretty quickly. And then you have Neptune, which is vision, which is number 26. Now, I'll explain why these two make a lot of sense together in a minute. So for May, you have the Hanged Woman, which I know everyone's like, if you know tarot, then you're probably like, really? But I'll get into why this is an important time period, because you also got Scorpio, which is investigate, which is number 8. So you got 2 8s in a row now. You've been getting a lot of double letters. So 7, 8, and 9 have come out. And then you have the Queen of Wands for June, April, May, June. And she came out with the Imam Kulai, which is number 38, which is number 11. And this is root. This has to do with your 4th house, which we'll talk about in a second as well. So your second quarter of the year, which is I kind of consider this more of the like spring quarter, because the first part you're still kind of getting through out of winter. And so when you're starting to go into this, we're getting out of that energy of that death card, and we're quickly moving into this Knight of Wands and Neptune energy, which Neptune is very much about like hopes and dreams. It can be about spirituality. It can be about accessing parts of yourself that maybe are a little more hidden away. Things that kind of you can fantasize about are in that house, as well as restrictions, addictions, things like that also have to do with that. So when I have the Knight of Wands here, though, I usually take knights as timing, because a lot of the time it talks about how quickly things are moving or how fast things are going. And so when the Knight of Wands comes out, he's actually the fastest one in the deck, which tells me that it might feel like things are a little crazy in the month of April, and it might feel like they're moving really quickly. But I think it's a good thing, because you have vision with Neptune. And so you might suddenly start like manifesting things that you've been trying to manifest for a long time. You might start have things like actualize like in your material plane that you've been kind of like wishing for, that you've been dreaming about, and you had all these plans, and it's like those plans are moving forward. But then you get into May, which May has the Hanged Woman, which the Hanged Woman is all about taking a time to rest, a time to be still, a time to shift your perspective. Now, the reason why this is also important is because you got Scorpio with investigate. Scorpio is very, very deep energy. It's very much about transformation, excuse me, and it can also be very much about sex, death, and taxes. And so when you're slowing down and being called to investigate, this is more about investigating you, like investigating your depths. And so what this tells me is things go really, really, really fast, and then you might hit a period where it feels like things slow down. or they hit a plateau. And basically, that period is so that you can rest before the next one happens, but also so that you can kind of dive in and be like, okay, is this what I'm wanting? Do I want to keep going with this? Like, what are my, how do I refocus this basically is kind of what's going on in May. So, May, it's weird because April feels very, very fast. May feels like a call to slow down. And then June is nice because you kind of have a balance between the two. When you get to June, you have the Queen of Wands, who's very creative, very passionate, very powerful. She's the next step up from the Knight of Wands, which tells me that things have now progressed. So taking that time to rest and to reflect and to take that still moment actually progresses you into the next level up, which is that Queen of Wands energy, who is very feminine, yes, but very creative, very powerful, very, very passionate, and she's very independent. She's very good at making sure that she's doing the things that light her up, that make her happy. And then it's also paired with root, which this is the start of the fourth house in astrology. The fourth house is all about home, family, having a safe environment. Safety is really big. It has to do with your intuition, it has to do with feelings. And so it's very, very important to note that you're going to be feeling a lot more grounded once you're following this Queen of Wands energy. So doing all of this diving into these things, that's going to help you get into this energy of being grounded, of being able to follow the things that really light you up without kind of feeling like you're all over the place. And so I feel like you go from, oh gosh, things are moving so fast. Look at all this. It's crazy, into this energy of like, oh, things have really slowed down. Am I going the right way? And then suddenly, like, once you balance those two things out, you get into that energy of like, okay, well, now I feel more grounded. I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. And now I can follow that passion and that energy and that excitement. Okay. So then we'll move into the third part of the year. So this is going to be July, August, and September. And so this is kind of like the summer starting to go into the fall. But we'll start with July. So for July, you have the Fool, which is very exciting energy, another major arcana. And you got it paired with transits, which is climate, number 55, which is a double number again, but it equals 10. Then you got for September, no, sorry, for August, you have the Devil, which is another major arcana, with dignified strength, number 13, which equals 4 when you reduce it. And then for September, you got the Ace of Pentacles, which is exciting. And you got it with trine or sextile, which is symbiosis, number 52, which is 7 again. So again, 7 could be really important. It is a 7 year. And so for these three, just as a general theme, this is like you've gone into that energy of like that Queen of Wands in June. And then in July, you're starting like brand new stuff. Like we have, again, you're going up to a new level. Now you can't really fight this because it's a major arcana. Two of these are. So in July and August, those are very, very important months for you. Has to do with changes in your climate, changes in your sphere, changes in maybe routines and patterns and things like that, because you're jumping into a new beginning. You're given a new opportunity to start brand new things. Now, the Devil is very interesting energy because the Devil, I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I just think that it means that you potentially have the need to balance kind of the internal with the external a little bit more, because it might feel like you're kind of getting pulled back and forth between maybe like old patterns and habits and like new things that you're trying to like go through, which is why strength came out, because it's saying like, okay, but you know how to do this, you know how to get through this energy. I feel like this group is very good at dealing with devil energy. So I feel like this is saying like, yes, this month could be a little harder because you're trying to kind of balance everything out and kind of move forward and let go, but you're ultimately able to do that. Like you have the strength to do that. And then in September, you get a brand new, like gifted by the universe opportunity that has to do with stability, maybe finances, career, money, things like that. And it's going to flow super easily. So it's really, really important because it's basically saying, like, yes, you're still going through this new beginning and we still need to balance things out, but then something even better is coming in. So it's like this whole year so far has just been like new, 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 which, like Lena said, at the beginning of the year, you're going to be one person. And then at the end of the year, you're going to be someone completely different. because you're going through all of these different changes and all of this new stuff that's happening.
Mhm. And for some of you, what this devil is that like spirit is really talking about is that like it is very much the tendency to overwork. For a lot of you, this is about overworking yourself. And this year is about learning how to stand in your power and in your creative pursuits and everything that you need, but not doing it to the detriment of yourself, meaning that like yes, you can be the team leader, but no, you shouldn't carry the whole team on your back. Yes, you can be a great partner, but no, you shouldn't be doing everything for your partner. Yes, you can be an amazing family member, but don't take on everybody else's burdens. And so it's like that blessing in September, that like leg out is like, you know, that, well, that's an arm, but yeah, I guess that, I mean, it's the same thing. The, it's a limb, you know, with that hand there with spirit presenting you this financial, you know, in this sense, financial, right? So it's just material. It's something that matters to you. Doesn't have to actually be money, but for a lot of you, it could be. Um, you're going to get this thing, and it's not a like, oh well, like you, if you don't listen, like you're screwing it up type. No, it's not any of that. It's very much that like we want to reward you, and it's kind of like more of like this. It is going to be a little bit of a test in that month, if I'm being honest, but it's not in the sense of like because we want to punish you. It's like, yes, we're giving you this challenge of, are you going to give into the old habits of overworking and doing things, and maybe even for some of you being pushed over by other people, or are you going to continue to stand in your power and your leadership and then receive this blessing like a million times more? So it's not that you won't get blessed at all, but it's almost like you're going to get blessed no matter what in September, like this opportunity, but it will be even greater if you are able to withstand the devil. And like Bekah said, it seems like this group has a lot of practice with that. So I think you'll be fine, but it's just something that I wanted to bring up.
Yes, and I think that you'll do that in a dignified manner because you have dignified down here. So I feel like again that goes back to that diplomat card, like that card about balancing and about being that leader, but like you know how to be that leader and still also respect yourself and like respect those that are around you. And so I think this you'll do this, and I feel like for many people that are watching this, like you'll go through this easily and with flying colors, even though it is kind of like a test. Now, that takes us to the last 3 months, which this is my favorite season. So October through December. So we're coming full circle now. So in October, we have the Three of Cups, which I love that energy for you. And you have Leo, which is shine, number 5. Which now you've got a lot of fives too. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have the Ace of Wands in November. So another ace with Virgo, digest, number 6, which I just realized that Leo and Virgo came out back to back. So that might be important. And then for
Whatever,
December,
sorry, whatever happens with the last months in like August and September is going to like echo into the next 2 months. So it's like they're kind of going to carry on, but in it, like again, it's going to be in a positive way. It's just very neat to kind of see it like trickle down.
yeah. And then the December cards are the Queen of Pentacles. And then you also have Mars, which is motion number 22. So double letters for this group. If you start seeing like repeating, not letters, repeating numbers, that could be a really important symbol for this group. Also, 5, 7, 8, and 9 have all appeared a lot in this group. And so those could be important as well. Now, for these 3 months, it's really interesting because there's a lot about independence, creativity, but there's also a lot about working with other people, nurturing things like that. Balance. That's like a huge thing. The last 3 months of the year, there's a lot of balance because when you have the Three of Cups, the Three of Cups is like friendships, it's like celebration with Leo, which is about shining and it's very independent energy. And so, what this tells me is you might be like shining in your circle of friends or shining in whatever group you are, which makes sense because you got a lot of leadership stuff for this year. And so people's eyes are going to be kind of on you in October. And not only that, but you should celebrate in October. So whatever happened with that ace of coins, I feel like you're going to be having that trickle into October, like Laina said, where you're celebrating kind of the fact that, oh, this new thing happened and now I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy this and I'm going to have fun and I'm going to celebrate, I'm going to connect with people and I'm going to let myself shine. I'm going to let myself be who I am and enjoy that and still be that leader and be in the spotlight in this sense while also enjoying like my friendship and my time and everything that's going on. And then that's just going to bring even more into your life because in November you have the Ace of Wands, which is the ace that's all about passion and creativity and inspiration and drive and power. And so when this comes into play, you get to celebrate and then something else new comes in. And like Virgo is very grounded energy. It's like the opposite kind of energy in a way of the Ace of Wands, just because of the fact that the Ace of Wands is very fiery and Virgo is very, very earth, very grounded, very routine. And so what this says is your daily routine is being shaken up by something very exciting. Now, what that is, it's going to be different for everybody, but it has to do with your passions, with things that you're really excited about, with inspiration. And you're going to be able to ground that into reality. You're going to be able to digest that. If we look at that card, it says digest. And then in December, you're going to be feeling great because you have the Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles, in my opinion, has always been very Virgo or Capricornian energy wise, but it's really any earth signs and it's a feminine energy. So we started the year with feminine, but we end it balanced because on the other side of that, you have Mars. So you have this very grounded Queen of Pentacles. She's very practical, very, very good at making stability, at nurturing, at finding support, things like that. And then you have Mars, which is like the planet of masculinity. So it's very interesting because you have this very, very balanced energy at the end of the year. Mars is also about action, it's about motion forward, it's about passion and drive. And so it's very, very interesting because you're grounded in the now by the end of the year. And you're very, very into this energy of being balanced, of having that groundedness while still also being able to be in that leadership, moving forward, working with that energy of power and of doing the things that you're passionate about, doing the things that light you up, but still also taking care of yourself, taking care of other people, being that nurturing feminine energy as well, which is gorgeous energy.
Mhm. So what I want to add really quick here is that like I noticed that like with the top cards, the way that it's being shown to me is that like the top cards are like the tarot, right? Like you're like the present energy, and then like the very like forward energy of that month, and then like underneath is kind of like the undercurrent, right? And so when you have the first month, you have the Three of Cups. So this is going to be a very emotional month for you, but positively emotional. Again, like Bekah was mentioning with the Leo, like this is about shining. This is almost like celebrating with your team. Like let's say you play sports, right? And like your team has a big win that month. Like this is going to be that like that emotion, that celebrating, that joy. Like again, if there is someone who's becoming a parent, like your baby could be born in August, right? Like um that's kind of like the vibes. It's like we're celebrating, we're cheersing, we're dancing, we're laughing, like that type of vibe. And then you have with the last 2 months of the year, I find it really fascinating because um you have the Ace of Wands. So this tells me that there's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of passion, a lot of inspiration in November. Like things, but then the undercurrent is the Virgo, that groundedness, that solidness. Like you're going to know, like Bekah said, how to ground or digest this into reality. But the top is going to be very passionate. So there could be a lot of activity, a lot of movement in November. But then in December, I love that it reverses. So the drive then is the undercurrent in that like it might not be as present, it might not be as fast, you're slowing down, but you have that Queen of Pentacles. So you're getting the rewards, like you're reaping the like end of the year harvest there, and like you're kind of slowing down a little bit, you're a little more grounded, you're a little more like you're ending the year like on this like very like interesting high note. And I think that that's just so cool.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. Like this group, your year is very positive, and I think that that matches the crystal. I actually didn't mention this, but the plant card that I drew for you, which I'm going to pull it back out like really quick before we go into your music recommendations, but I'm going to pull this because this card that I was talking about that has to do with the dragonfly, the one that I can't say. This card also has a lot of relation to this crazy lace agate that's out here. And this card is very, very interesting because it talks about happiness and it talks about like letting go of things that maybe are not necessarily healthy for you, but also finding like the joy and finding the happiness and finding like it just matches really, really well. And I think overall it shows me that this year, even though like here and there you have a little bit of challenge, like you have some time where you might feel a little stuck, and then you have like 1 month where things are a little bit difficult because you're kind of being tested. But for the most part, as you're going through this year, things are getting better and better and better and better. And so you start in this place of like, you're already doing really well and you're very strong in like that feminine energy of nurturing. But then we're kind of going into action and then we're balancing them out by the end of the year, which is gorgeous.
I don't know who this last message is for, but Spirit gave me this image of like this little kid who always put their shoes on the wrong feet, you know, and like, we're kind of seen like as an outcast, as a weirdo, but it's like this kind of like thing where Spirit's like, this is your time to shine, to rise. Like, yes, you may have been that cute little kid who always put their shoes on the wrong feet and stood out, and like maybe wore mismatching socks and like did silly like little things like that, but like this is just like it's very much giving me like phoenix rising from the ashes, like you are blooming type energy. It's really cool.
Yes. Now, while she was saying that, I did shuffle out your songs. So I have this huge bag of songs. And so this is going to be kind of like a playlist for you for the year. Some of them are new, some of them are old, so just keep that in mind. The first one that came out is Living It Up by Monsta X, which I think that makes a lot of sense for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You got the song Where Is This Love by Kihyun, who's from Monsta X. You have Charlie Be Quiet, which is by Charlie Puth. That's one of my favorite songs right now. Nobody by Half Alive. Saturn by Sleeping at Last, which we did have Saturn come out on this card. So Saturn could be really important to you. You might be a Capricorn, or you might have Capricorn strongly in your chart, or Aquarius. Those two have a lot of relation to Saturn. Or you might be going through like your Saturn return. You have Unless I'm With You by Jackson Wang, which is a very soft song. You have Clean by Taylor Swift.
Great song.
Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas. I love that. That's very Mars energy. And then you have Magic Shop by BTS.
Love. And don't forget that you also got Chocolate by Snow Patrol channeled, and I forgot to say it earlier, but Juice by Lizzo, I did also channel that while I was doing your channel messages, so you can also add that to your playlist.
Yes, and these songs, so we do have a weekly playlist on our Spotify account, but these songs are also going to be added to a special playlist that we made just for this year, and we're going to call it the 2023 playlist. So if you want to go listen to this stuff, but also have all the other groups at the same time, we'll have a big playlist for you guys so that you don't have to go like find all of them. But yeah, we hope that you really enjoy it. We're very excited for your year. Leave a like, a comment, hit subscribe, let us know what you thought, but hopefully we'll see you in our next reading.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Hey guys, welcome to your pile. If you picked pile 2, you chose this clear quartz right here, which clear quartz is great for a lot of things. It's all about new beginnings. It can also be about clarity, about emotional clarity, mental clarity. It's very, very good at assisting with cleansing as well. So a lot of you in this pile are going to be doing a lot of new beginning things. It's also really good for manifestation and stability. And it also can help with focus and clarity and things like that in general. So this is a really great crystal for going into a new year, just because of the fact that it's really like the crystal of like new starts and cleansing, which is really, really beautiful energy. And I'm going to put that up there. And then this deck that you chose is actually called, the Muse Tarot. And so we already pre-shuffled everything. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're doing a year in advance reading. And so we're talking about what is going to happen in 2023, as well as kind of breaking it down by quarter. And so we'll start like 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously, because that's what quarters are. They're split into 4. And so we'll do 3 months at a time. First, though, we're going to do an overview, and then at the end, we'll do some channeled songs to give you kind of a playlist. And then actually, all of the different groups with their playlists are all different. And so we're going to use all of those songs and put them into a playlist for 2023. So whenever you're finding this, it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter if you found it in January when we post it, or if you found it in like July or September, because it's for the whole year. And so if you find it later in the year, it might just give you some more confirmation. Otherwise, it's kind of an outlook of what's going to happen in 2023 potentially. If you did feel drawn to any of the other piles, feel free to pick one. But for you specifically, this group, the vibe check is going to tell us a little bit more about if this feels accurate for you. Lena's also here with me. She's doing channeled messages. And then, of course, we're going to be reading together when it comes to the full year. So we will go ahead and we'll get started. I already pre-shuffled your cards for the year. I'm just going to lay them out and then we'll kind of go over them. So we have one tarot card for the overall year. 1 second. So that card is Awakening, which this is also the Judgment card. Very beautiful card. Very, very interesting that it lined up with your crystal. For your archetype for the year, you have the Artist, which is the Rubens Rose. For the astrology plant card that we have, you have the Milk Thistle, which is Peaceful Warrior, number 23, which this is also 23. And then this is 20. So 2 could be important, but obviously we're going into 23, like 2023. So 23 could just be an important number in general, which equals 5 in numerology. You have the Snake and the Fern, which is starting over. You have Gateway. Let me move these up just a little bit more. You have Sophia, which is Divine Plan, Wisdom, Intelligence Within, and Destiny, which is gorgeous energy. And then the last card that you have is the Willow, which again is number 23. And I didn't notice that when I pulled these, that all the ones that have numbers on them are 23, except for your Awakening card, which is very interesting. But basically overall, this Willow card, before we get too far into it, Willow is about not doing things the way that you always have. It's about trying new things, about going out there, and about also pushing through with resilience when you meet roadblocks. So it's very interesting because overall the energy is very much one of a new beginning. Like this whole year is about new beginnings, starting over, trying new things. Gateway is all about starting some new path. So for a lot of you that pick this pile, it really is about the fact that you're going to have a lot of new beginnings, which can be hard because you have to go through endings, right? But you're going to have a lot of new beginnings. And these new beginnings are going to be very different from the things that you're used to. And so there's a really big call for you to lean into that more flowy creative side of yourself and to use that energy to help you kind of get through anything that pops up that may be a little more difficult, because you're kind of going through like a leveling up and then opening up to all these new things. So if you've been manifesting a lot of stuff, you might see some of that come into your physical sphere this year, just because there's so much here about like manifestation and new and clarity.
I definitely agree with that. So far I just have a couple little channel messages for you guys. The first one that came through was snowflakes and then purify. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny because you have that card with the snake, and one of my channel messages that I got was about shedding old skin, and then also Italy. So this is very much like with all the 23s, like Spirit was pointing out to me that like this could be like if you were born in the year 2000, you'll be turning 23 this year. So this could be transformative for you in that way, because when you add 2 plus 3, that equals 5. And a lot of times in numerology, 5 is about change. It's about transformation. So this year, even if you're not turning 23, this is a vital year for you. That doesn't mean it's going to be all sunshines and roses necessarily. It doesn't mean it's going to be horrible, but it does mean that it's going to create change. Usually there's a little bit of both when you're having a very transformative year. There's a little bit of like love and in the sense of like loving yourself, like having a great joy, all those things. And then there are also a little bit of like the rocky waves, on the boat. It very much reminds me of the Six of Swords, where like there's choppy waters behind you and then you're sailing into the smooth waters. So it might even be that like 2022 was really hard for you and you might have some of the like not repercussions but like the some of that growth to still get through. And then like you're going to kind of slowly see like, okay, the reason that all these shifts happen was because I need to go through this big transformational thing process to become like who I need to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. This is a huge change year. And I think obviously when we come out of a year, it's not like suddenly there's just like a full stop and then like everything is different. So I think that Lena's right in the sense that some of that stuff is going to be carrying on into the new year that you've been experiencing this year, but it's because you're going through that new beginning and it does take time to go through that transition. And so you're kind of right now, judging from these cards, you're already in that transitional period, which is why there's a lot of talking about letting go and trying things new ways, and that new stuff is happening because it's kind of like that. Okay, we're actually in the process of shedding that skin, and now we're going to be moving forward. So, very,
Yes.
very interesting energy.
I just started hearing 0 o'clock by BTS. So I think that that's going to be a very important song for you this year because I know that I personally wish that what Becca just said was true, that like once it hits January, midnight, it's January 1st, that you're suddenly like New Year starts, everything is refreshed, like you start back at zero. And now I got From Zero from Monster X in my head, so there are two songs for you. um but with 0 o'clock, like that song is about like you know the day starting over. So like, are you gonna be happy, like are you gonna like take up, so this that's kind of like the clock. In a sense, it's not resetting it like Becca said, and like that it's magically going to be different, but your clock is resetting. You are getting a new beginning. It's just unfortunately not like a snap of your fingers new beginning, but it never is. Growth is never comfortable, and if it is, then it wouldn't be growth.
Right, exactly. Oh, and one more thing before I put these away, for maybe not a lot of you, but for a few of you at least, there's some spiritual new beginning stuff happening. So if you've been kind of trying to get more in touch with like your guides, ancestors of the universe, things like that, like some of you are actually having like a spiritual awakening, which is why that awakening card is so important and why the snake is so important, because that is a huge symbol of spiritual awakening as well. And so you might be opening up to things that you've never experienced before that seem a little out there, or you might be getting like, I don't know, you might be someone who's kind of skeptical or something and you've never believed in stuff like that, but now you're seeing like the same thing, like you're seeing snakes everywhere and like you're seeing repeating numbers and angel numbers, and like you're starting to get all these weird like synchronicities and divine like intervention moments. And it's like, yeah, that's a big part of awakening, which can be really scary and really hard. And so that's another thing to mention for this group is you might actually, some of you, be going through that situation. And so there's a call to ground and to be open to it, but to also kind of let yourself experience it and be okay with it being kind of uncomfortable sometimes.
Yes, 100%. I think that you guys are coming into that new era of yourself, and that is going to require being uncomfortable. And specifically, Spirit is saying that 222 will be a number that they will be sending this group a lot. Um, and they want you to be aware of that. And then also just the number 23 to represent the year. So you're going to be seeing 23 and 222 quite a lot. Um, and then that's just like your way of knowing that your guides are with you, that they're on your side, and that like you're heading towards like where you want to be going.
Definitely. So, with that being said, we're going to get into your year broken down into quarters. And so we have a tarot card and an oracle card for every single month, but we're breaking it down to do 3 months at a time to kind of give you an overall theme of what that season usually is going to be like. So we're going to start with January through March. And so I'll lay one tarot card and then one oracle card. For the first month, for January, you have the Hanged Man or the Hanged Muse or the Hanged Woman, whatever you want to call her. But this card is January, and then you have the clarifying card of the 6th house, which is sustainability. This is the house of Virgo. It's number 44. The Hanged Muse is number 12. So keep that in mind, but we'll get into what that means. Then you have, for February, you have the 3 of Cups or the 3 of Emotions. And that came out with the 7th house of relationships, which is number 45. And then the last one for March is the Devil, number 15. And that came out with symbiosis, which is trine or sextile, which trines and sextiles in astrology all have to do with like ease of flow, easy placements. So that's kind of an interesting energy as well. So basically, with this energy, what I'm getting is that you're going to start the year, like I said, kind of in that same energy that you have been exiting 2022 with. Now, that doesn't mean that that energy is going to last forever. It just means that when you start the year, it's going to be kind of continuing that energy. You might be feeling kind of stuck. You may be feeling like things haven't really been moving. It may feel kind of like you're just doing like day to day, going through the motions. You have your routine and things are just kind of like meh, like we aren't moving. But when you have the Hanged Man is a major arcana, which major arcana it like denotes basically an important time in your life that you're meant to go through. You have 2 of them at the beginning of the year. So in January and March, those are very, very important pivotal moments for you because of the fact that you have 2 major arcana. Now, February, it's not that it's not important. It's just that it has a little bit more flow to it. It's not as like, oh, this is meant to happen exactly this way. Like, it's not like this is a developmental moment. It's more of I'm going to call it a reprieve because of the way that it came out. But basically, in the beginning of the year, you're very focused on your routine, your health, your day-to-day life, coworkers, anything that has to do with like that. What do I do every day? How do I make sure that I'm getting grounded? How do I make sure I'm going day to day? It's very Virgo in energy. Not only that, but you may feel a little more connected to like nature. You may feel more connected to animals. If that's the case, do that to help yourself feel grounded. The Hanged Muse also talks about perspective. And so it's very, very much about being like, okay, I may feel like I'm stuck, but this whole situation that I'm in right now, usually when we feel stuck, when we get the Hanged Man, it's because we're supposed to be taking a rest. We're supposed to be going within and kind of taking that time to rejuvenate ourselves, which makes sense with the 6th house. And so if you're feeling stuck, just know that that's not going to be there forever. Try to take advantage of that time while you can to get grounded and to get into some sort of routine, whatever that looks like for you, that feels good, that feels healthy. And that doesn't mean like, oh, I have to plan out my whole entire week, like a week in advance. It just means like, if you need your cup of coffee every morning, make sure that you get your cup of coffee every morning. If you take a shower, midday to kind of perk yourself up, do that. Like, just find those little things that make you feel more grounded throughout your day to day life. Now, that leads us into February. So you're totally shifting your focus in February because you have very much like that day to day in January. And then February is all about relationships. Now, it's interesting because you have the 3 of cups, 3 of emotions, which usually with that, it talks about like celebrating with your friends. It talks about that companionship community. It's usually not like a couple, but more like your close circle is kind of that 3 of cup energy. It's about kind of emotionally finding satisfaction within your like really good friends and family. Like soul family is a big thing with 3 of cups. 7th house being relationships, it does have to do with partnerships, but that could be in the form of business, romance. Best friends are still considered part of the 7th house just because of how close that partnership is. But the 7th house is also about like justice, fairness, balance, things like that. And so you're learning in February, how do I allow myself to kind of get out of this Hanged Muse energy into an energy of spending time with those that I love, into an energy of balancing between my routine and other people. So it's a very like emotionally charged month in the sense that you're going to be spending a lot more time in the flow, but it's not a heavy month. It's very light. It's just very much about finding that balance and spending time with the people that you care about. Now, then you're going to shift again. So then we go into March, which is the devil. The devil energy is very interesting because it's actually the counterpart to the lovers. And it's very much about like you may be struggling with that balance in March. It may be hard for you to balance things. You may have triggers that come up. You may have things that kind of provoke you a little bit, or you may be tested a little bit in a way, in a sense that there might be things that come up that you are like, like I know what the right way to go is, but like I'm struggling with this. That's kind of that energy. But you also got trine and sextile. So you have the really easy flow that comes through. And so I think for a lot of people, you're going to be seeing things more clearly. You're going to be able to see those like triggers and those addictions and those things that have held you back very, very clearly. And you're going to be able to kind of work with them instead of against them. That's what that trine slash sextile is really all about, is letting that ease of flow happen. And so as long as you're not digging your heels in, and as long as you're just kind of letting that change happen, as tough as that can be, it's going to go really, really like cleanly for you, if that makes sense. But that is the first quarter. So then we're going to move into the second quarter of the year. And so the first quarter, like I said, it is a little all over the place, but it's good because it shows that there's movement. And I'm excited to get into what the other quarters show you, just because I already know what the cards say, but Laina does not.
I don't.
So let's get into the second quarter. So for the second quarter, I'm gonna lay them out. You have, for where are we at? April. For April, you have the Nine of Cups, which, come on. And then that was clarified with Imam Coli, which is root. This is the start of your fourth house, which has to do with like home, family, security, intuition, emotions. For May, you got the Hierophant. And then that was clarified with Capricorn, which is just so fitting.
Yeah, it really is.
And then for June, you got the Empress. And then that was clarified with Cancer, which is immerse.
Also very fitting with the Empress card.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's kind of like what I was talking about in the beginning, that like you're kind of going through like waves, right? Like it's like that song by Daniel something, but it comes and goes in waves. But for you guys, like when I look at this like overall, right? Like you're kind of going to be going through like you start off the year again and it feels like you're carrying on some of the energy from 2022, like still trying to figure things out. And something that spirit wants me to be very like accurate, like not accurate, well yeah, accurate, but to say with this group is so that there's some like, so that you're not, because I feel like the reason that we brought up that like energy doesn't just end and start over is because that's something that you kind of expect of yourself. Like if you're told in a tarot reading or told that like let's just say for example you hurt your knee, right? And you're told that your knee should, your doctor's like, oh, your knee should heal up in about 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks passes and your knee doesn't heal up. You guys are the type of people to be so hard on yourselves about that. What the hell, knee? It's been 2 weeks. Why are we not healed yet? Come on. Like we've been doing everything we're supposed to do. And so it feels very much that that's how you are about your energy too. Like, so like us telling you like, oh, in this month you're going to go through this, and this month you're going to go through that. If there's a little bit of bleed through or things starting earlier or later than they're supposed to, you have this tendency to hyper fix it on and be like, okay, well now I'm wrong. Like I'm off my path because like this was supposed to happen in March, but like it didn't really start happening until the end of March. And now it's bleeding into April a little bit. It's like, whoa, like that's okay. Like you're not on April 1st, it's not suddenly just going to be 9 of Cups. Like it might, and that's awesome if it is. But you might even get a little bit of taste of that 9 of Cups towards the end of March. It just depends how things flow. And so this is a lot about like flow for you guys. Like these next 3 months is a lot about you learning to just flow and to let things be exactly as they are, to like let, if things are not going well, okay, then they're not going well, and that's okay. And then if things are going amazing, then also enjoy that too. This is about being like really present. So when I see this 9 of Cups with roots, that's what this tells me, is that you have all this stuff that's going to be going on around you that you might like potentially take for granted. And it's not because like you're a jerk or because you can't see, but it's just because you're very future focused. You have a hard time grounding into the present moment. You're, head in the clouds, dreaming, which that is such a beautiful energy. I am guilty of it myself, so much so. You have to be here. You have to be able to enjoy what is around you. And so this 9 of Cups is going to be showing you like, look, you have all these amazing things, this wonderful stuff. And like, now let's ground that into our reality. Like, let's make it ours. So that is what April is looking like for you. Like, it's going to be like, and that's like spring, right? So that's like that's the new year in nature, right? Like it's like where, that's getting into Aries season. It's Aries season. So you're starting off the new astrological year, which starts at the end of March, in like this like great amazing like brand new beginning place, which is really cool. Like, I love that your new year is lining up with the astrological year. So I agree very much with Bekah that this year is very spiritually aligned and divine for you. And then when we get into May, we have the Hierophant in Capricorn. And so the Hierophant is more serious. And the way I see the last 2 months of this quarter going is that you are very like, in May, you're in a masculine energy. And in June, you're in a little bit more of a feminine energy, right? And that's awesome. So it's like in May with the Hierophant, like this can be about like, it can be about marriage. So like if any of you are planning a wedding and your wedding's in May, this is a great sign for you. Your wedding is going to probably go off really well. But for those of you that are not, like, this is also about contracts. This is about like learning and teaching. Like the Hierophant is also a teacher. So like this could be like where you start to pick up a new skill. And since you also have Capricorn here backing it up, like you're going to put your all into it. You're going to work really hard. You're going to just like, whatever it is that you find like interest in, inspiration in, whatever you start teaching, whatever it is, like it's just going to like blossom. And then in June, you have the Empress, which the Empress is about like the birth, the creativity. She is about like, the how do I want to put this? Like she is, I would consider her to be the mother of tarot, right? Like in the way like the Emperor is like the father, and then the Hierophant I would kind of put like as like, again, like the teacher, the scholar, and then the High Priestess, she's like the wise sage. So like with the Empress, like this is stepping into that feminine power that like, I'm creating what I want, my vision is growing, and that's just further backed up by Cancer. Like this is going to be something that's very important to you. It's close to like your heart, to like your home. Like this, whatever this is that you're getting into in June is going to feel like a vitality. It's going to feel like, wow, like I'm really stepping into this new era for myself. And so it's such a like a beautiful energy because you're going to feel so at home in it. And like I love that for you.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous energy. One thing I also wanted to mention is, again, you have 2 months that have the major arcana, and then you have 1 month that has minor. So, like Lena said, when you come into April, it may be that things are a little bit more flowy because of the fact that you have that minor arcana. It doesn't have like a set, oh, this is definitely happening like at specific XYZ. These two are ones that you can't really control, and there may be some bleed through with these, but I feel like there's also some work with balance with these as well, and knowing that these 2 months specifically are very important. And so far we have January, March, May, and June that have all had major arcana. And so your year is very important. Like, I don't know if we can stress that more than we already have.
Yeah.
Which not so far, I don't remember pile one having like that kind of a lot of, they haven't had quite as many major arcana from what I was looking at. So it just means that this year is very transformational for you. So we're going to get into your third quarter, which starts with July. So you have the Seven of Wands, which we'll get into why that's way different energy again. And it came with the eighth house. Don't panic. Okay. Talk about it. And then you have August, which is Temperance. So another major arcana. And that came out with Neptune. And then in September, you have the Two of Wands with Pluto. So we're going to talk about this a little bit because this quarter is very different energy from the first two, but it's very important energy. So when we start out, now, like Lena said, remember that there is going to be some bleed through between months and things are not going to happen exactly like, oh, this month, this is exactly what's happening. But this quarter is very much about transformation. It's very much spiritual quarter. It's very much about balance and it's very much about development. There is so much Pluto and Neptune energy right now in this quarter that it is going to be very transformational, which is great, but can also feel very heavy at times. And so it's really important to find this balance that we're going to talk about because of the fact that at times it's going to feel very difficult. And then at other times, it's going to feel very new and exciting and fun. And so it's important to find the balance between those. Now, when we start out, we have the Seven of Wands and the eighth house. Eighth house is very, very much about transformation. It is about diving into your depths. It is very, very serious energy sometimes, which can mean it can feel very heavy, which makes sense with the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands is like a very defensive feeling, kind of like you're in the middle of all these different wands and you're like protecting yourself is kind of the energy. It might feel a little difficult. I'm not going to like sugarcoat it. When you get into July might feel a little heavier. Like it could be that you are kind of diving into the depths of yourself, like you have something that you just are something's coming up basically that needs to be kind of reviewed and nurtured and sat with because it's going to be something that's been kind of pushed down for a long time is kind of the vibe that I'm getting. When you have that Seven of Wands, there can be a temptation to kind of go within and like go kind of closed off from everybody else, kind of like defending and protecting yourself, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you have an eighth house month, like that's telling me that, yeah, there's probably a reason for that. Like you are dealing with something that feels a lot harder to deal with at times, is that energy. It can be that you feel the need to protect whatever is coming up from outside forces, which there is a call, of course, to remember to lean on the people that you trust. But it's also okay if you feel the need to go into hermit mode or you feel the need to kind of protect yourself a little bit more, just because that healing can be very, very difficult. And you don't have to always share all of your healing with everybody. You can allow yourself to feel it and to work with it, kind of away from prying eyes if you're feeling called to do so. I just want you to know that that month might feel a little bit heavier, but you're going to come out of it because when we get into August, you have the Temperance card. Temperance is about balance, it's about patience, it's kind of about divine timing as well. You'll see on this card, there's actually the moon phases as well, which we just had like the Cancer card come out in June. And so this is going to kind of call back to that. It's going to call back to the quarter that you were just in before this so that you look at, okay, how did I learn to nurture? How did I learn to ground? And how do I balance this need for healing with this grounded, nurturing, maybe not quite as serious energy sometimes? Neptune is usually the ruler of, I mean, it is the traditional ruler of Pisces. I don't know for sure, obviously, in each individual person's chart that's listening to this, where this is at for you. It traditionally rules over the 12th house as well. This is all about the hidden stuff. It's also about spirituality. It can be about meditation, dreams, fantasies. It can be about restriction. It can be about addictions. This just basically means that you could be finding that grounding through diving into the depths, through diving into the things that you need to dive into alone, through going through like, where am I restricting myself? Where do I find that I feel like things are kind of out of reach or out of touch? And how can I get more in touch with those? It calls for creative energy. It calls for meditation. It calls for spiritual things being put into your routine. And so it's important to know there's this really big lesson about how to balance and how to dive deeper into things in a way that helps you feel more grounded and in a way that is nurturing and loving and caring, and finding that balance, finding that ability to kind of go with the flow again, because this is going to be very heavy. This is going to kind of help lighten that back up a little bit so that you can get into September, which September has the Two of Wands, which the Two of Wands is a new beginning. It's like a gateway, it's a doorway, which you had a gateway in your year overview. And so it's important to note that this is a brand new beginning in a way. With that, you also have Pluto rebirth, which Pluto is that eighth house energy again, it's Scorpio energy. It is all about shedding the skin, transforming, going through that change, pulling all that stuff up and allowing it to help you move forward as new. And so it's hilarious to me in a way, because you have this like brand new fiery new beginning, and then you have this card that talks about rebirth. And so for you, there's a lot of all of this stuff that's happening in this quarter is a very deep rebirthing process, which can be very heavy and very hard, but also very beautiful at the same time, because this is like the ultimate new beginning. And so while you're experiencing, you know, that new beginning and ending at the beginning of the year, it really culminates into like a brand new spiritual, emotional, mental new beginning for you in this third quarter.
Yes, I love that for you guys so much. I think that this quarter is going to be so transformational, so like full of depth and wonder and just like so many things, but it is going to be a little bit of like a like kind of, you know, like whenever we go through these beautiful transformations, like it's so easy for us as a tarot readers to be like, oh my god, that's so beautiful, and like when you get there you're gonna be like, this feels like hell, I hate you guys. Right, and that's totally valid because we've been there. Like I can't tell you how many tarot readings we watched back in the day, and like the depths of our like, and they're like, oh, you're going through this transformation, it's gonna be amazing, and at the moment you're just like, no, it's not. It doesn't feel that way at the time. And so like when you, if you think back to this reading at that time, like it's okay to feel frustrated, to feel defeated, and to feel upset, like you know, during this time. But like what I want to say is that there is such a silver lining, because every time we have gone through that thing, we always look back at it later and go, okay, like I understand why I went through that, because it prepared me for this. And like it's like one of those things where it's like it sucks, but it is what it is. For some of you, like this could even be like your Saturn return. Like you could be going through your Saturn return this year. Like this could be like the peak impact of it for you. And that is going to create a lot of transformation. This, you know, if you don't know what your Saturn return is, it is basically when Saturn returns to the place that it was when you were born. It happens about every 27 years, 27 to any, so usually somewhere between the ages of 27 and like 32, I believe, is where your Saturn return takes place. For most people, it's more like in the 20s to 30, but it can have lasting effects. It just depends per person. I personally, again, don't believe that your Saturn return just like stops on a date. You know what I mean? Like the day that they're like, oh, it's not in that sign anymore, so there's no leftover energy for you. That's not true. I felt like my Saturn return lasted 2 extra years, like than it was supposed to. Not that it was supposed to in quotes. So just like, you know, in this time, really kind of, you know, understand that there is a lot of transformation going on for you, but it is just such a, you know, necessary transformation, because I feel like for a lot of you, you've been asking to get to that next step, but it's almost like you were trying to like go without having to do your homework. And spirit's like, no, 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 you got to go through the, like you can't take a shortcut, you have to do the homework. And so like, yes, this is going to suck for a little bit, but it will be rewarding in the end.
Yeah, it's hard and it's heavy, but it's going to be great, and I'm really excited because I know what's in your fourth quarter. So, I'm going to lay them out. So, when we get into October, you have the death card, which I know I just said I'm excited, but don't don't click off yet. And then you also have the sun. So that's October. And then November, you have the Four of Wands. and it came out with Jupiter, abundance.
Nice.
Oh, just wait. And then December, you have the Lovers. And it came out with Venus, which is
Oh, okay.
beloved. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, okay. So let's dive into this real fast. First thing, I actually forgot to mention this going into the thing because Bekah had mentioned like in July not to panic. There is a book called Don't Effin' Panic, except it says the actual word. And it's by Kelsey Dara, I believe. And it's like a workbook and it's about like to work through like anxiety and panicking and like different things to like help kind of ground yourself. I have not purchased it yet, but I've heard that it's a really great book. It is one that I am looking to eventually purchase because I have a lot of anxiety myself. So that's something that I want to recommend to you guys, that could be something that could help you through that little period, or could just help you overall, like if you are generally an anxious person. Okay, so moving away from that section and now here into our fourth quarter. For Bekah and I, this is like our favorite quarter of the year, really. So it makes me super excited to see that yours is going really well. So with death, like I don't think that this is like death. A lot of people get scared of the death card, but for me, like this is when you truly shed that skin that we talked about in the beginning of the, like on your overall, when we talked about how you're going to be shedding your skin. Like you can see that the in this death card coming out of like that cocoon, that chrysalis. So it's like you do the work, you get through the challenge, and because of that you are reborn in this time. So some of you might be October babies, so you might be a Scorpio or a Libra only because the sun is here. So that's why I'm saying that. And it's not the sun in tarot, so it's not the same thing as like happiness, joy, da 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 da. Like it the sun, like this is about, to me, this is the death of your old ego because it's the death card with the sun, but a rebirth of the new improved ego, the new version of you, the vitality, the new like essence of who you are. Like you are coming out of this as a completely new you. Like you have done the work, you have done the transformation, like now you're ready. Like it's that there's a song, I think it's by Lizzo.
Mm-hmm.
Am I ready for love?
It's
That's
like
the
my
one that I,
favorite song.
it's really good. And that is exactly your October. That is the song. Like that is the anthem for October. Um, and it's very much that the answer is yes. Like you have completed the transformation. And so then we move into November and we have the Four of Wands, which this is about traditionally, like this can be about like getting a new home, a new foundation. This can be about weddings. So for some of you, this could be the month that if you are with a partner already, that you guys could potentially get engaged this month. That's only going to be for a couple of you. For a lot of you, I feel like this is going to be the month that you potentially maybe either you meet your person or you somehow bump into the opportunity that is going to lead you to your person. For some of you, you could meet them and you guys are just friends. And this could be with the abundance card. I'm getting that like this is like it's prosperous, it's divine, like it's Jupiter. Jupiter is bringing you luck, expansion. So not only like everything in your life is expanding, your social group, your friends, your money, your ideas, your creativity, like everything is just kind of blossoming. It's kind of like the way I see it is like there are like these four pillars in your life that you rebuilt this year from the ground up and they're as strong as ever. And so because of that, like your aura and everything, like if you see all that yellow, that pink in those cards, like they're, it's so inviting, like it's welcoming you in, it's pulling you in. So there's just like this cornucopia of abundance coming for you. And like, yes, some of that is financially, but I feel like a lot of it is socially. A lot of it is like you're going to be making new connections, meeting new people, like networking, finding like a community that you really get and understand. Um, and so I think that is going to be why December is so Venus focused, because not only I think are you going to feel like self-love, but you could at this point with the lovers meet that romantic partner, make peace with yourself, like align with your own values, align with the right people, you might find a new best friend, like someone that you've connected with in so many ways. This could be that romantic partner that, starts off as your best friend, but then becomes like uh, you know, a lover, for lack of a better word, from the card. Um, that person, your soulmate, the one, like that could be what you experience. And then, for those of you that are not looking for love, like I said, I think this comes into that, like, you know, uh, probably finding a really good best friend, or again, like that self-love, like you'll end the year feeling so good and so confident about yourself, and you're feeling like, yes, bring on 2024. Like that's how you're going to end the year, which is just such a great, like, magical energy to be in.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better ending. I was a little nervous when I was shuffling these because I was like, "Oh, this is a really like there's a lot of transformation happening, but it'll be worth it. It's going to be so worth it." Because when you have this beautiful of an ending to the year, like it just shows that once you get through that cycle that you're going through right now of like letting go and of transforming, there's so much that comes in. This is where that manifestation comes into play. And so all those things that you've been working towards, they're going to start like showing up into your life like a lot more apparently in November and December. I mean, I think throughout the year you're still going to be getting, things that show up, but I think that the big things are really going to start appearing towards the end of the year, which is
Mhm.
again our favorite time of the year. I mean, it's the holiday season, which I thought it was really interesting that Jupiter abundance, that cornucopia came out for those of you that are in the US and celebrate Thanksgiving. I thought that was really, really kind of ironic and funny. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I wanted to mention is that the Four of Wands is also about celebration and it's also about foundation. And so when you get into that energy of that Jupiter abundance, it's about celebrating that and it's about honoring the whole entire year that you've gone through and being grateful that you're through it, first of all, because that's a lot of work to go through. But two, to let yourself have fun and to play and to spend that time with those people that you're meeting, spend that time with your family and your friends and those that you care about, enjoying the abundance that you're getting, whether that be financial, material, emotional, mental, friendship circles, romance, whatever that is. It's about celebrating and enjoying that fully, about living that and not overthinking it, not trying to get to the next step, but just kind of being present in the now because things are going to change very rapidly at the end of the year. And I think that even though it's really, really exciting, just remember to slow down when you need to slow down.
Hmm. Yeah, Spirit said that like grounding, walks in nature, meditation, drinking lots of water, like taking baths, showers, like to cleanse your energy, those will be super helpful for you throughout the year to kind of help you bring you back to the now. Um, and you don't have to do meditation in the traditional sit down, close your eyes, like, sit with your thoughts kind of way. You can do guided meditations, you can do EFT tapping, you can read a book in just the, sitting in your backyard and just kind of like letting yourself be in that moment, like that is a form of meditation. You can cook as meditation, you can do yoga, you can take a tai chi class, you can do so many things to find your way to meditate. I actually know that there are a lot of people who will paint. They will meditate while they paint. They will do clay crafts. They will, knit or sew. So, like, find what works for you that helps bring you back to the now to get through this year. And it will be monumental in your growth.
Mhm. So, as a last thing that we're going to do before we close it out, I am drawing songs for your playlist for the year. And so I have this bag of songs, which, yes, that is a TXT bag. And this has been a bag that I've been filling with songs for about 2 years now. And so you're going to get some old, some new. But basically, we're going to add these to a playlist and it's going to have all four piles. And then, of course, any songs that we've already recommended will be on there as well, like while we've been going through. But I pulled like 6 or 7 different songs for you. And so we're going to talk about them. So you got Hype Boy by New Jeans, which is a bop. Um, you got Blood, Sweat, and Tears by BTS, which that's accurate.
Uh-huh.
You got Maroon by T Swift, Taylor Swift.
Love that song.
It's such a good song. You got Dive by Ed Sheeran. You got Feel Something by Bay Miller. Or B, Bay. You have Heal My Desires by Emotional Oranges. Great band. And then, oh, you have Love of My Life by Queen.
Oh,
That's so cute. A lot of these songs are romance songs, just to let you know. A couple of them are not, but most of them are. So
yep.
if you are manifesting that relationship, just remember that at the end of the year, you definitely have a lot of relationship energy. And so that's something for you to look forward to at the end of the year.
Mhm. Yes, which is exciting.
Yeah. So we hope that that resonates for you. We're very excited for your year, but let us know what you thought. Leave us a like, a comment, hit subscribe if you want to watch more of our videos. You can check out one of the other groups if you want to, but otherwise, we hope this reaches you well, and we will see you in our next reading.
Yes, best wishes, guys.
Hey guys, welcome to pile 3. If you chose this group, you chose the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot deck, and then you also chose this beautiful moss agate crystal. So, moss agate is a very nurturing stone. It's a heart chakra crystal. It's very, very good for inviting new friends, new relationships into your life, but it's also very good for grounding and balancing between emotional and mental. So, very good at like divine masculine, divine feminine balancing as well. It's very nurturing and helpful when you're going through a lot of change. It helps you to ground. It's a very, very good crystal. It's actually one of my favorites. But this is moss agate, so we're going to put that up there. Now, in this reading, we have this in different sections. So we started with your overall year view for 2023. So we'll talk about kind of what's the energy going to be like for 2023 overall. And then we're going to break it down into quarters. So we have 3 months for each quarter. And each of those is going to kind of give us an overview of what each of those months might have going on, kind of what the vibe is for those months, maybe some things to expect. And then at the end, we'll also draw out some songs from my song bag that I have, which I'll show you here. And it has old and new songs in it. And that will give us a playlist for you for the year. We're putting all of the different playlists from the different pile all together into one big playlist on our Spotify, which the link is down in the box below in the description box. So if you want to go listen to them and you don't want to go like look all of them up, those are all going to be down there. Obviously, if you were drawn to any of the other piles, feel free to watch more than one. You don't have to stick with one. Take what resonates, leave the rest. But yeah, we're gonna go into it. Laina's also doing channeled messages, and then she'll be, of course, helping me read some of the tarot stuff for the year. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. We'll start with your year review, and I'll put them all out, and then we'll kind of go over what it means. So we did one tarot deck for the year for each group. And for this group, you got the Spirit of Wands. This is the King of Wands in this deck, which is very beautiful energy for the year. I can already tell you this group has a lot of leadership stuff that's coming up. Your archetype rose for the year is the Hero, which is the Sunburst Rose.
Pretty.
Yes, it's very pretty. Your plant astrology card is Hibiscus, number 14, which is joy. This has to do with Venus and Mercury, I believe. No, Pluto. Venus and Pluto energy. Also, hummingbirds are really important for this group. That was on that card. You have the Hound and the Pair, which is loyalty. You have enlightenment. After the Rain, which says silver lining, relief, hope, mercy, it's over, and acceptance. There's a pretty rainbow on there. And then for the plant, you got basil, which is number 24. So 14, 24, and 36 are all numbers that are out here. So you have 6, 5, and 9 that are out here for this year. So those are the numbers that I'm kind of picking up right now. Now, with these cards, there's a wide range of things happening in this group, but this group is a little more ahead when it comes to things like leadership and spirituality. Like I feel like this group is probably relatively connected. If you're not, it doesn't mean that this isn't your pile. It's just that there's a lot of people that watch this pile specifically that are. And I feel like for a lot of this group, you're coming into this energy of being kind of in the spotlight in a way, not necessarily like fame. I mean, for some of you, maybe, but for most of you, I just mean that you have people that are kind of relying on you, or people that are in your circle that see you as like a leader of some kind, or that use you as like a role model or as like a lifeline, someone they can put like you support people basically. And I think that this year you're really coming into that energy, that power of balancing between being that very supportive, loving person and also having like support in your corner. For a lot of you, you might meet new people this year. There's a lot about like needing to rely on other people, be open to other people, knowing that there are like loyalty is a really big theme, but there's also a lot about celebration, communication. It's going to be a very interesting year. There's not like one singular overall theme. It's just there's a lot going on, but it's going to feel very grounded. That's kind of the energy that I'm getting. There's a lot of creative energy as well. If you've been kind of feeling stuck or like nothing's moving or like you haven't had a lot of inspiration, that's changing. You're going to be someone that has a lot of maybe a lot more energy, a lot more inspiration, is able to kind of tap into creativity a little bit better. With this enlightenment card, you might start seeing things in a different way. You might have like a lot of shifting in perspectives. And for some of you, this is getting more connected to like your gifts and your talents, to like the divine things in life. But a lot of this also has to do with being able to balance those friendships, balancing your social circles, balancing your soul family. It's a very interesting thing because it's very much about like, okay, how do I go ahead and be my passionate creative self while also balancing the need to be that role model, that hero, that person that's there for my friends and family and my loved ones? And how do I enjoy all of this in the process?
Mhm. I definitely agree with that. The only thing that I really want to add for you guys for this year is that that after the rain card is really like sticking out to me. So I feel like it's not just like this last year, but maybe the last couple years, like globally, the last couple years obviously has been kind of tough for a lot of people. But I think for this group specifically, like you guys have been really going through it. Like I'm seeing like Dark Night of the Soul, like, making big uprooting changes that have made things, more difficult. Like maybe not, I don't feel like it's been like a wavering in your faith, but there's been a lot of test of your faith in the last few years. And like with that card, like after the rain, like spirit is saying, like, yes, like things are finally going to be clearing up for you this year. Like you're finally getting the recognition you deserve. You're finally getting that leadership position. Like to me, like that is the card that I'm the most drawn to. It is the one that I am like zoom. Like that is the one that spirit is like, yes, this like, especially because you have the hero, like the sunburst rose, like this is like your hero's journey, like is coming to a close. Like I haven't seen the tarot cards what Bekah pulled, but like if the world is in there, like it's 100% meant to be, because like you are coming to the end of like this tough cycle and ready to kind of like start the fool's journey again, but like in a better place, if that makes sense. Because our whole life we're always cycling through the major arcana. Like somewhere you are at this moment, you are somewhere within the major arcana and you're going through some type of thing. And then you always recircle back to it. And each time you become the fool again, you're a little less of a fool than you were the last time. Right. And so you guys are coming into like this new journey, this new chapter, and it's very, very like it feels like a breath of fresh air. Like it's lighter, it's airier, and again, it's like that rainbow. Like you are the sunburst rose. Like your aura is going to be bright and blooming, and you're going to feel really good and really powerful. And you will be like, yeah, oh my gosh, I have so much clarity about why I went through all the crap that I went through. I don't want to do it again, but I understand. And
Yeah.
like I'm so grateful because now I'm here.
Yes, definitely. And I think that makes sense knowing what I know about your cards because I'm the only one that's seen your tarot that's coming up. So I definitely agree with what she's saying. But I wanted to point out too, she said a breath of fresh air, and you can notice on this hibiscus card, like she's breathing in like light. So It's very interesting. Also, wings could be really important, or flying. I don't think things are gonna go so fast that you're gonna feel like, oh my gosh, what's happening? But I think that things are gonna finally move forward, which is something that you've been wanting for a long time. And I feel like there have been a lot of places where you felt very stuck. And so now it's time to kind of like move, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also have Butterfly by Luna that popped into my head. Specifically the part where they're like wings, wings. And then the fly like a butterfly. So like that can be very significant for you. Um, while Becca gets the next section ready, I'll give you your channel messages that I got for you guys. We got the third eye activation, giraffe, toaster strudel, point of view by Ariana Grande, Japanese architecture, don't know why, just came through, a royalty past life. So if any of you are into looking into past lives, there is specifically one where royalty is involved. It feels like you're the royalty in that life, and it's something that you need to like remember or yeah, like have a recollection of. Maybe even reconcile to like past it. Then you have lavender tea, and I'm also seeing that like butterfly, I think it's butterfly pea tea, the one that like is blue, and then you put the stuff in it, and then it like you put like citrus in it, I think like lemonade, and then it turns like pink or like purple. That I'm seeing that tea. So to me that kind of symbolizes again like the transformation, like it's magic, like finding magic in everyday life is kind of what they're saying. Like you're going to see that like your tea can go from blue to pink. You know what I mean? Like there are practical steps to make real magic. Um Take more naps, and then the song Butterfly by Luna, which I already mentioned.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking this the other day when it comes to magic in everyday life. If you are someone that likes to cook, cooking is magic. And I think that a lot of people they kind of take that for granted. But when you're cooking, you're literally creating something brand new. And when you're cooking, not baking, because baking is a science, but like I mean, it's still magic. Science is magic. But basically, when you're cooking something and you're doing it using your intuition, like you're literally creating magic. You can put intention in your food. The reason why certain people's food tastes better than like if you were to get it at the store or make it yourself is because they're literally imbibing their feelings, their spirit, their soul into that food. And that food then transfers over to you. It's a transfer of energy. It's magical, which is really fascinating. I don't know why I felt the need to bring that up, but I was thinking about it the other day, and it must be important for somebody here. So if you are someone who loves to cook, just know that every time you're cooking, you're making magic. Just saying.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna get into the first quarter. So this is gonna be the first 3 months of the year. So we have a tarot card and then an oracle card to kind of give us more clarity on it. So for January, you have Reclamation, which is the Tower, I believe. I'll have to double check, but I'm pretty sure. And then you have Chiron, which is Heal, number 28. For February, you have the Nine of Swords, and that came out with Pisces, which is Sensitize, number 12. And then for March, you have the Three of Pentacles, which came out with Neptune, which is number 26, which is 8. For this group specifically, the numbers 3, um, well, 3 is the one that's sticking out to me the most, but the number 3 is really important for this group. So keep that in mind. That could be a number that you see repeating a lot. It could be a number that's lucky for you. It could be like your birth date. It could be that the numbers that you were born add up to 3. Could be a life path number. I'm not sure, but 3 is really standing out to me. But when we get into this, basically we talk about January. January is not necessarily an easy energy to go through. Reclamation. I actually really love this deck because of the fact that the cards are a little different than like the traditional tarot, in the sense that they give you kind of other ways that you can read the tarot card, because normally when we have the Tower, which I'm double checking right now that this is that, when we have the Tower card, oh sorry, this is the Devil. Well, similar energy but different. So basically when you have the Devil card, it's never looked at as reclamation when you see it like typically, But when you think about it, the devil is all about reclaiming your power and basically resisting temptation. It's about making sure that you're balancing and that if you do have any triggers or anything that comes up, that you're able to kind of like work through those. It is a major arcana, which means January is a major month for this group, and it's a month of healing. You have Chiron that came out that's all about healing. I feel like there's a lot of things that you've been working through that have been kind of coming to the surface the past at least few months. And they've been things that you're starting to see in a different perspective, and you're able to kind of see them and say, okay, I can actually see how this is affecting me, or I can see what this is. And I kind of now have a plan on how to heal it, how to work with it, how to get through this energy without giving in or doing the same thing that I've always done. It's kind of about that new cycle. In this month, you really need to make sure that you are balancing your need for healing and privacy and safety and all of that with your need to be around other people and to rely on other people. That's, excuse me, very important for this month. And again, wings. She has wings in this card. So make sure that, you're going with the flow. Basically, you have the ability to get through these things now because you've already been doing the healing. You've already been working on it. And so for a lot of you, oh, I didn't even notice there's also a butterfly. But for a lot of you, you've been doing that transformation, and right now you're seeing it and you're able to kind of work through and start. You've been healing, so it's not a start healing, but you're able to kind of heal some of the things that you've been working really hard on getting through for a while, which leads us into February, which February again is not an easy energy. It's the 9 of swords, which the 9 of swords is about anxiety, but this card again is so beautiful. It actually kind of reminds me sometimes of the 4 of swords, which is about rest. Now, this card is gorgeous because you have all these plants down here. And yes, like it is the card of anxiety, but it's almost like a things are moving. And I think that that could make some of you anxious in the sense of like, oh, like things are actually happening now. Like that's kind of the energy that I'm getting. Pisces came out with this, which Pisces is very sensitive. Pisces is very much about like spirituality. It's very much about meditation, about like creating from very emotional spaces, about things that are hidden, restriction, things like that. But for me, this is specifically about you might be finding yourself more sensitive to things that are around you, which is why you're feeling so much anxiety. For some of you, you're developing some gifts and talents that maybe are a little more out of this world than you're used to. Or like Lena said, like you might start seeing magic in like everyday things, and that might kind of start to make you anxious because you're like, oh, I didn't think that was possible. Or oh, like this is a lot, like this is a lot, or you might get overwhelmed. Doing things where you're able to pull yourself out. So like taking naps, taking time away, taking baths, putting in headphones, or I have these little loops because I get very sensitive, like sound wise. Part of that is my ADHD, but part of it is because I have a lot of ability to hear things that other people can't, like clairaudient abilities. And so sometimes I'll get really, really overwhelmed. But I have what's called loops. And we're not sponsored by them, by the way, but I'm giving it out there. I love them. I have loops, and you can put those in. And what they do is they kind of dull the sound that's around you so that you can't really hear everything, but you can still hear like the things that you really, really need to. Those are super helpful when you're feeling really like sensual overload, like sensitive, basically. Like sensational overload. And so I think doing things to kind of pull yourself into a grounded state or to kind of help with that if you're feeling overly sensitive or like there's a lot going on, especially emotionally, if you need to take time to process things, it's really good to do so. That's going to help with that anxious feeling that you have that kind of seems to happen in February. Um, Now, that doesn't mean that there's not good stuff happening because there definitely is. It's just that those are kind of like the overarching themes. Now, that leads us into March, which March is kind of nice because it's very grounded. So you have this 3 of Pentacles, which the 3 of Pentacles is about working with other people. It's about finding that structure, that stability within like a small group of people or a community, a close-knit group of friends, family, things like that. It's about kind of relying on others to help you with that foundation, with that material life. It can be about collaboration. That's a big word for that. Now, Neptune, again, is Pisces energy. Neptune is about the same things a Pisces about, but this card specifically is about vision. It's almost like if you've been working on something for a long time that you've been wanting to kind of bring into like the practical, grounded world, and it might have been something that you've been dreaming about for a long time or something that you've been thinking about doing for a long time, you're going to start working with people in this month to actualize that. And so basically what that means is there's some big dream that you're like, I really want to do this, but it just hasn't felt like time. March is time. So basically March is telling me like, okay, we're going to start putting things into action now that we've had on in the back of our mind as a dream for a long time. We're going to get through this whole beginning of the year, which is very much about moving past and through this healing into this energy of being open to working with other people to create your vision, create your dream on earth. And so it's really lovely because even though the beginning of the year is kind of difficult in some ways, it's also going to be very, very transformational in the sense that it's going to allow you to open up a lot more.
Mhm. With the with the beginning of the year, the way that spirit is breaking it down for me in like a too long don't read type, for like anyone who has like a little bit of a short attention span and you just want little bullet points to remember, um, is that like January is the month like where you are healing, going through things, and you might actually get a lot of creative divine ideas. And the reason that the devil is there in front of the Chiron is because I think that like you have this idea, but you're almost like maybe afraid to share it. Maybe you've shared your ideas before in the past. You're afraid to like think about it too much, to dream too much, to like it's that childhood wound, right? That's what Chiron is. It's our deepest wound, not just our childhood wound, but it a lot of times it happens in childhood. Um, it's the wound that picks at us the most. You're like, I'm not sure, and so you're gonna, excuse me, be faced with that Chiron wound. They say when you like have burping that you're correct. So and you're gonna be like, I don't know. And then like you're gonna actually take the leap and you're gonna do it. And so then like things are going to move in February, like they said. And so that's why you're gonna have like some of that anxiety. But then you're gonna also have the magical Pisces, dreamy, like you're gonna kind of like feel that like fantasy, like, but then and then in March, like you actually are going to have like those things, like Bekah said, come into action and come into fruition. You're going to be working like whether it's with spirit or with someone, with a team, and like these things are actually going to be moving and happening. So this first quarter feels like it's very surreal. You might need to ground a lot because you might feel very like out of body because this is not what you're used to.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. Okay, that moves us into our second quarter, which give me 1 second. So this starts out in April. So in April, we have the Four of Wands, which is beautiful. And then that came out with the 12th house, which again, that's a repeating theme the last however many months. So we have the 12th house, which is introspection, which is again that Pisces Neptune energy. And then you have the star for May, and that came out with Pluto, which is rebirth. And then for April, May, June, you have the Spirit of Cups. This is the King of Cups. And it came out with Imam Kolai, which is root, which is the start of your fourth house, which has to do with things like home, family, emotions, intuition, anything that basically has to do with like moon stuff.
Okay, so wow, this second quarter is so interesting to me because like you have the Four of Wands, the 12th house. So with the 12th house, we're dealing with like the unknown, the hidden, the things that, so I almost feel like this month is going to be surprising to you. Um, I don't feel so much like, oh, you're working on deep, dark 12th house stuff. Like, because I feel like you've been there, you've done that. For a lot of you in this group, I feel like you've already transformed your 12th house. Like you've already learned to work with the energy of your 12th house, especially those of you who know your natal chart and have a planet or a placement there. You've worked through that a lot. It doesn't mean it won't ever come up again because things do come up again all the time. But I feel like for the moment, like it's not like oh, you're gonna be in like a terrible, trench of like 12th house energy and like I'm drowning. Like, no, like this is like because you have the Four of Wands here, like this is telling me like I've mastered this. Like I have foundation here. I know how to deal with this. And so, and it feels like because you all have that fantasy, like, that like that was kind of like from the past, like not the past, but for like the past 3 months, the first quarter. Like when you come here to the start of this quarter with April, it's very much in this like dreamy kind of like I know what I'm doing now, like I understand, like I said, that you see that hand kind of coming up out of the ground. It's like it is that rebirth, like you are rising from the ashes, like you are like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I've died and I've been reborn kind of sense, like I'm pulling myself up, I'm starting over. Like it's almost like if you have like a business or a business plan, or you wanted to start a family or whatever it is, it's like all of this stuff starts falling together to come in place. Like you might even go through some type of glow up physically for some of you, not all of you, but some of you. So like for example, if you've always wanted to like you've always had really really long hair and you've always wanted to have a short hair, you might at this month cut your hair off and like dye the tips, or you might grow your hair out. You might start wearing a new makeup look. You might like wake up one day and be like, you know what? Like I've changed so much that like none of these clothes suit me anymore. And you sell them, whatever, like, or you donate them, and then you get a whole new wardrobe and you just like completely like this is like a reboot of you. Like that's kind of what this feels like. Like I've truly found the new me and I'm 100% in my power. I'm 100% knowing how to shine. Like that's kind of what that energy feels like to me. It doesn't feel like this sad melancholy energy. It feels very much like a celebration. Um, you know, I've I have this like thing, and I am like I'm being surprised by the universe. I'm walking into the unknown. Like but it's a good unknown. And then when you get to the next month, when you get to May, you're looking at, the star, which is hope, and then Pluto, which again is transformation. So you're supposed to have hope and hold on to this transformation because, yes, while this transformation is beautiful, sometimes transformation is still a little bit messy. So, like, you might encounter a couple little hiccups here or there, and like that's okay. But hold your vision is kind of what I'm getting. It's like hold on to your vision, be open, and like at the same time as you're holding your vision, don't be stubborn, like be flexible and let things come in like as they should. But basically at the end of the day, like if you want uh let's say that like the thing that you want in life the most is a cat and you've always wanted a cat. Well, don't let people come and walk into your house with like a snake or a hamster or a dog and be like, "Oh, this is the animal I think you're supposed to have." Be like, "No, I've always wanted a cat." And you're like, this is just not the obviously it's not the right time. And then May comes along and you're like, okay, like all this stuff is happening, so I'm not getting my cat. But then you know you hold on to that hope, and then look, in June your roots and the queen and the king of cups is there. So this to me gives off that like, okay, like now I'm feeling emotionally fulfilled, I'm feeling emotionally stable, I'm putting down roots, I feel really good. To me, like that's the month like where you really start to see that it's possible to get the cat. Like you might start getting little trickles of what it's like to have a cat. Maybe you find a reputable shelter that you like, and you go there a couple times and you see some cats, but they don't feel like the quite the right cat. But like, do you? So I hope this metaphor is making sense. Like it's this like little like these breadcrumbs that are leading, and they're getting bigger and bigger as the months go on, and you're actually seeing factual things growing and growing and growing. And then when you get to April, it's like, oh, I feel rooted here. Like I understand now. Like I'm really in it now. I understand my place. I understand my purpose. I feel emotionally and spiritually fulfilled, and I feel safe. Like to me, that month right there, like that month is pure safety, which is so gorgeous.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot about grounding the second. Basically, in the second quarter of the year, there is a lot about kind of slowing down, making sure you're grounded, making sure you're taking care of yourself because you already know how. And so I definitely agree with that. Now, we're going to get into the third quarter. So this is going to start with July. So in July, we have the Queen of Pentacles, and she is clarified by the second house, which is resources, which makes sense because the second house is ruled by Taurus traditionally, which is an earth sign. And then you have for August, you have the Nymph of Pentacles, which is the Page of Pentacles. And she is clarified by the 11th house, which is community. Hold on. I'll straighten those in a second. And then you have for September, the Ace of Wands, clarified by the 6th house, which is perfect for September. Number 44 is sticking out. So 4 could be an important number for this group as well, not just 3. Okay, so basically what we have for the third quarter is very, very interesting energy. Again, it's very grounded. Like this group has a very like earthy vibe to them in general because there's this very like underlying theme of feeling grounded, of feeling stable in this group. And not only that, but it's like there are multiple energies that are feeling pretty balanced out, and one of them is a very grounded, stable energy, and then the other one is almost like a mixture between like inspired and like mental logic energy. It's very interesting. But basically, we start out with the Queen of Pentacles in the second house. The second house is resources. It's all about material stuff. It's traditionally ruled by Taurus. So it also has a lot to do with what you value. Queen of Pentacles is very grounded, very nurturing energy. She is someone who knows how to be in her foundation, and she's someone who knows how to nourish herself, nourish other people. She is similar in some ways to the Empress, just she's a minor arcana, not a major. And so this is just telling me that when you don't have any major arcana in like a season, it doesn't mean that there's nothing going on or that it's not important. It just means there isn't like some huge, like crazy life lesson thing that's happening that period of time, and that you're kind of supposed to go with the flow and kind of let things happen the way that they're meant to. There are things building up because we go from the Queen of Pentacles to the page, and then we get this ace. And so we'll get into what that ace is, but the first month is very much focused on like your resources, on what do you value and how do you ground that into the material plane. Like how do I find my grounding? How do I help myself feel safe and secure within these resources, which makes sense because you just came from a very safe and secure focused month before that. And so it's like you had that emotional security and that like emotional grounding in June, and then in July you're focused on that like physical material plane grounding, and it's almost like a because you're feeling grounded and secure emotionally, that's allowing you to be open to all of this abundance and all of this material stuff in July. And then in August you're learning. So the nymph, the page is all about learning, which is why they're called the page, because it's like a book. So when you have the Page of Pentacles, that's about learning about foundation, about security, about stability, about potentially money, finances, material resources. But because it's in the 11th house, it's about security within your community. So that could be basically that you're building an even stronger foundation and learning what does it mean to be secure within my community? What does it mean to have secure friendships? What does it mean to have people around me that support me, that I also support, and have that balance? That's really what that month's about. So when you go into August, it's very much about community, and it's very much about your values within the community, but also about allowing for things to be balanced and fair, and for knowing who are the right people to be around and who are, the people that you can let go of, and what is a true friend and what's not. And I think potentially even some of you could be meeting new friends, new soul tribe members. You could finally be feeling like you're fitting into a group or a community, or you could even create your own. You might be learning about how do I lead in a community setting? How do I make a community for myself? That's really what that's about. And then in September, you get like a hit of inspiration. An ace is like a gift bestowed on you by the universe, basically. And when it's wands, it's about passion, excitement, drive, hobbies, creativity, like all of that inspiration is what a wand is. And so when you're getting that huge gift of inspiration, it's very important because you've been working up to this point. Now, when you get that inspiration, it's in the sixth house, which sixth house is Virgo energy, which is perfect because September, I mean, starts as Virgo. So it makes sense. But basically, you're getting inspiration when it comes to your day-to-day life, when it comes to coworkers, when it comes to your routine, your health, things like that. Again, you're kind of getting like a refresher in the sense. Like it's kind of feeling like your routine is getting refreshed. You're getting all this new inspiration. Your day to day is literally changing into something where you're able to wake up each day and feel inspired and feel excited and feel like things are moving forward at a good pace, and like you're passionate about things and you're able to share that, and it's really beautiful. Now again, there's a call to stay grounded during this time because wands move very fast. They're fire. And so they can be very, very hot. They can move very, very fast. Sixth house, you want to make sure with that Virgo energy that you're grounding and that you are staying in both at the same time. Like you're allowing yourself to be inspired, but you're also taking that time you need to stay grounded, to feel that stability and to know that you're secure so that you can bring that passion forward. It's very important to balance that. And you'll even see on the sixth house, like it's someone meditating. So it's important to note that like you're going to be feeling grounded this month, but you're also going to have some divine inspiration that's coming in or some passions that are coming in. And so that's a very beautiful energy. Just make sure that you're balancing those two in September.
Hmm. Spirit said your motto for this quarter is burn bright but not out.
That makes a lot of sense. Mm. So that leads us into the last quarter of the year. So this is actually Lena and I's favorite time of the year is the last quarter. So, and I don't actually remember what I drew for this, so it'll be a re-surprise. But basically in October, oh, you have the Nine of Pentacles. Beautiful.
Nice.
I know, I was like, oh, that's gorgeous. With Taurus, cultivate. So there's that second
Well,
house.
damn.
Yeah, I'm like, there's
Damn.
that second house energy again. And then you have for November, you have the universe, which is the world, which Lena mentioned the world.
I did.
And that came out with the ninth house of exploration. This is the house of Sagittarius traditionally, which is the house of like
Philosophy, travel.
religion, learning. So then you have for December, you have the King of Pentacles. So you already had the Queen, and now you have the King at the end of the year. And then that
Wow.
came out with Pallas Athena, which is think number 30. So there's that three again.
What was the word under? Sorry, Palace Athena?
Think.
Okay, think. Okay. So let's jump right in here to October because that is wow. Um First thing spirit is like wanting you to know is that like you were like the Nine of Pentacles on its own, that is like the Ten of Pentacles. When you get it, that's like it's almost more like old family money. It's like when you have a legacy to leave your family. But the Nine of Pentacles, this is like the bells and whistles, the lavish money. Like you're able to like say that like you're like shopping. Like this is like the type of money that you dream about having. Like you're just like, I have so much money, I don't know what to do with myself. And the reason that I feel like this is extra prominent for you is because it is being followed up with by Taurus. So this is again about like your values, your like Taurus and uh, Libra are both ruled by Venus, but Bekah and I always feel that the Taurian energy is more like they're more on the luxury side, right? Because they're going to be the ones like you always are told to have a like a Taurian energy. They need to watch like to not overindulge, right? And that goes into like financial things, but also like with food and things like that. So I feel like you're going to be eating a lot of yummy food. You're going to be having like your pick of the litter, so to speak. Like if we're going back to the cat metaphor, like if you haven't gotten your cat yet at that time, like you're going to be having like the creme de la creme of the cat, you know, that you can pick out any cat that you want. You're going to be, you know, maybe you have so much money in your savings that you're able to book like a lavish little getaway for yourself. Like there's just like this, or you're again, we're talked earlier about maybe you reinvent yourself. So like you got rid of your old clothes and now you have the financial means to buy that new wardrobe or to change your hair in the way that you really wanted to. Like it's kind of like everything comes up roses in that sense. Like you're going to just feel so financially secure and stable. And I'm not saying like, you're going to be a billionaire. I mean, you might, who knows? And if you are, awesome, good for you. But like, it's just that you're going to feel so good. Like you're going to feel like you can afford the little luxuries in your life again. You're not going to feel like you're scrounging, and that's such a like, and for you specifically in this group, that's going to be such a glorious feeling. um and then when we move here into November, like I said, the world, like you're starting off this year, like already having ended a cycle. But by the time you get to November, like you're becoming the fool again. So it's like you're already like, I feel like when you end this year and you're starting it, you're the fool. And then when you get to November, going into the next year, you're already recycling again. So it's like you're going to be learning really fast. Like so much is happening this year. You're changing so much with the ninth house here. Like this can even be about travel. Like again, we talked about you have the extra luxury. So maybe you book your trip for November and you go somewhere that you've always wanted to go. Like for some of you, I'm getting like this can be like Europe, this could be Asia, this could be if you're not from the United States and you've always wanted to come to the States, you fly out to the States. This could be just like if you want to go to New York and you've never been, like there is something that is happening that like allows you to travel, to indulge in other cultures, to expand your horizons that like happens in November. That's just going to feel so good and so invigorating. And I really feel like in November, like you're going to like, yes, I feel like so alive. Like that's the vibe. Like I feel like sky high right now. And that's like the vibe that I get with this month. And then with December, with the King of Pentacles, again, this is like having it all. Like you have a good foundation now. You upgraded from the Queen of Pentacles, so to speak, to the King of Pentacles now. And you have the money, the foundation, the like, and you also know how to form a business plan. Like with the think, this tells me that like with your finances, with your like you've learned so much this year that you know how to manage your finances. Like you just feel stable at the end of the year. You're like, yeah, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. Like now I know where I'm going. I have direction, I have stability, I have enough money that I feel safe and secure. Like I feel good. Like you end this year feeling like, yeah, like I feel at peace because I am like, because the pentacles are each like suit has like their pros and cons, of course, and each suit is amazing. But the pentacles, they're known for being the slowest, but they are also the most stable. And so for you to get the king and the queen tells me that like this has been a long time coming for you. You've been working on this for a long time, but the reward of it is so much more fruitful than someone who rushed to rush to get there. So it's like, again, you're ending the year on that, like, oh yes, like I'm on my throne. And like, what did I say about like your past life of royalty? Like I brought that up not knowing at all what your cards were. So you guys really do need to see if you can find now I'm not trying to push, but we do past life regressions. So if you want to get one with us, we can try and go through with it. But you can also just find pick a cards and things. You can pull cards yourself. But you guys definitely have some like royalty past life stuff that you need to look through because maybe it will help you get in touch with this feeling of like knowing that you know already have in the past been a leader and you already know how to own the room, and it's time for you to own that energy so that you can have this amazing, prosperous, fulfilling year.
Yeah, it's a beautiful energy, honestly. Like I don't really have much to add because it's just like it's kind of like mic drop. Like
Yeah.
so, with that being said, I'm going to draw from this fancy TXT bag and I'm going to draw about 6 or 7 different songs for the year. Now, these are both new and old, so some of them are going to be older, some of them are going to be newer. 6, and then I'll do one more. And so we'll see what they are. And like I said, we're going to add these all to a playlist so you can see what the other groups got too. Okay, the first one is Choker by 21 Pilots. You have Destroyer by Monsta X. Closer by RM. Anti-Romantic by TXT.
Oh, great song. Yeah.
Oh, Fairly Local by 21 Pilots. Blue Hour by TXT. You're the first group to get any repetitive artists, so that's funny. And then Mastermind by Taylor Swift.
Oh, that's a good song.
Yeah. So those are your messages. Those are your songs for 2023. We highly recommend you go listen to them to see kind of what the messages are. I think they line up really well with your cards. But we will go ahead and close the reading there. If you want, you can leave a like, a comment. You can hit subscribe for more videos when we put them out. You are more than welcome to pick one of the other groups if you were drawn to any of the other tarot decks or crystals. And then, of course, we hope to see you in our next video.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, welcome to pile 4. If you chose this pile, you chose the Tarot of the Divine, and then you also chose this lovely rose quartz. So, rose quartz is a very good nurturing and compassionate stone. It's actually one of the first crystals I ever recommend for people to get if they're looking at getting crystals. This crystal is really, really good as an all-rounder. It's a heart chakra crystal, and so it's really good for nurturing, really good for compassion, for if you're trying to attract love, if you're trying to give yourself more self-love, things like that come with this crystal specifically. It's also a quartz, which quartzes are about clarity. So if you're trying to heal when it comes to like emotional wounds, this is also really, really good for finding clarity and healing those as well. So this is your crystal. Now, in this reading, we actually have broken it down into a couple different parts. So we will start with a year overview, and we're going to talk about what can you kind of expect from 2023 overall. And then, of course, we break it down into quarters. So we have 4 different sections that go over 3 months at a time. Each month has a tarot card and an oracle card. And so we'll go over kind of a general breakdown of what the energy could be like on a month to month basis. And then at the end, we will also pull some cards from this fancy little TXT bag that I have. And we're going to pull some of these out. These are song recommendations. And so we're going to make a little like playlist for 2023. Now, if you watched any of the other piles, then you already know, but we're putting all of them into one playlist on our Spotify as well. So if you were interested in what the other piles got for music choices, or you just wanted to listen to the full playlist for 2023, that's going to be on our Spotify account, which is pretty cool. And then Laina obviously is doing some channeled messages as well as helping with the tarot portion of it, of course, as always. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started on it. So I already pre-shuffled everything, but Laina doesn't know what is going to come out because she wasn't here for it. So I'm the only one that actually knows what's on these cards. But we're going to start with your year. And so we have a tarot card for the year, and your tarot card for the year is the 6 of Coins or the 6 of Pentacles. Then we have your archetype is the Seeker, which is Mrs. Robert Peary Rose. Perry, maybe? Not 100% on the name. For the plant oracle, you have Cordyceps, which is revival. It's number 26, and it's Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars energy. You have the owl and the hop, which is wisdom. You have flexibility. Open, say yes, expand through the extremes, and trust life. And then the last card for the year is Holly, number 47. So right off the bat, I can tell you guys that there's a lot about things coming into balance this year. So if you've been feeling kind of off balance or off kilter, or kind of like things haven't been going like easily, like it's been taking a lot of work to move forward, that's going to be changing. Basically, we're getting into a state of being able to give and receive in equal amounts. And with this revival card, it tells me that there is a lot of energy that's starting to come back in. there is some requirement for you to be flexible and open, but you have the wisdom that you need. This is also about healing. Holly, number 47. I'm actually going to read from one of the decks for this one, which I didn't do that for any of the other groups. This has actually 2 books in this deck, but it's called the Seed and Sickle Oracle. It's probably one of my favorite ones of all time, but I'm going to read that one really quick because I think that it sums up things really well as far as like kind of what to expect for your year. And so with that card, it says things are feeling overwhelming, so it's time to sit back and focus on yourself. Spending time reacquainting your body and your mind isn't a selfish act. Through balancing yourself and becoming more self aware, you're better positioned to help others who you're worrying about. In the Celtic Ogham calendar, holly is a plant of peace that represents balance and recentering. This card is encouraging you to meditate, take a walk, have a bath, do whatever makes you feel most relaxed. And this is time for you. So, a lot of this year is going to be time spent on you, time spent on balancing, time spent focusing more on what you need and how to nurture yourself and how to really get into this place of giving and receiving, this place of giving yourself what you need in order to be grounded, in order to be safe. And so, we have the seeker as well, which the seeker tells me that you are seeking the path forward. It's kind of like you have this innate curiosity and flexibility about you, and you have the wisdom to go after the things that you want. And I think that you're going to be moving forward at a very steady pace this year, which is really good. You're not going to feel stuck. It's basically about like if you feel like you've just been giving and giving and giving and giving, that's not how this year is going to be. It's going to be more about receiving and more about you and less about everybody else that's around you.
Hmm. I definitely agree with that. I think you guys have a like kind of like a the vibe that I'm picking up is mm, it's not a jam-packed year in the sense of like it doesn't feel like you're gonna be like running ragged, like you're gonna be exhausted, but it feels like maybe the year before was a little bit slow. I think a lot of people had a really kind of slow 2022, but this year feels like there's just like a little bit more like of a spark. So like maybe like you're going to be a little more busy or you're going to have just like more inspiration, more creativity, but it feels like there's just like some movement. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be like zoom, 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 like a ton of movement, but there is movement. So, like, if you've been, like Becca said, feeling off balance or feeling stuck, like there is some type of movement forward.
Yes, and the other thing about that is with the revival, like I don't know if you can see this, but there is an eagle. Obviously birds. You have one, two, three different birds on here. And so birds could be a really important symbol, but this just shows me like kind of coming out of the ashes. I know it's not a phoenix, it's an eagle, but it kind of reminds me of that. Like you're kind of you're starting fresh basically. And so you've been through a lot, you've gone through a lot of endings, and this year is really about new beginnings in a very balanced and grounded way.
Mm. You have the Ravenclaw symbol, even though for some reason the Ravenclaw symbol is not a raven but an eagle. um, So my channeled messages that I have for you guys, I have just a few that came through. I have London Boy by Taylor Swift. Like that was the first thing. It was like blasting in my ear. So maybe there's something about London for you. Like maybe you've always wanted to go there. Maybe you'll go on a trip there. Maybe you're from there. Um, then I have Get Outside. Spirit saying like get outside, do walking, Zumba, hiking. I've seen people do Zumba in the park or just, yoga in the park, like just or go for a walk, like just outside, like outside time is needed. Um, Lemon balm, which is a essential oil, and that's a really good, great smelling essential oil. So that's something that was recommended. Ego by BTS as well. That's by J Hope from BTS, but uh, yes, check out Ego. And then they also wanted to highlight more traveling this year. So again, could refer back to the London Boy, could also refer to the birds because you could be maybe potentially doing a lot of flying this year, which would be really cool.
Mhm. Yes, definitely movement in all shapes and forms, especially like actually physically. Um, so that's very exciting. Now, we're going to get into the first quarter. So, this is going to be January, February, March. And so, we have a tarot and an oracle for each month. And so, we start with January, obviously. In January, you have the Empress, which is gorgeous energy to start the year. And then you also have the 10th house, which is authority. Look at those mountains. Like if you're a hiker or you want to be out in like the mountains or in the forest, like that's a good omen for you, especially because the Empress is so grounded. That could be another sign that maybe you'll be traveling somewhere where you can like hike or get out in nature more. For February, you have the Two of Wands, which is about new beginnings. And then that came out with Aries, which is again about new beginnings. And we'll talk about that more in a second, too. And then for March, you have the 10 of Wands. Nobody panic. And you have it with the seventh house of relationships. And so basically, the beginning of the year, there's actually a lot going on. Some of it may be emotional, some of it could be mental, but there's also some that's physically changing as well because you start this in this very nurturing energy. And I think in January, there's a lot of focus on the self and a lot of focus on what do you find nurturing and getting out in nature, making sure that you are grounding and trying to take care of yourself. There's very much a call to kind of going within that nurturing mother energy in January because I feel like that is preparing you for this new beginning that's happening in February. Because when you have the Two of Wands, that's always like they're stepping through a threshold. They're going into a new start. And it came out with Aries, which is like the baby of the zodiac. That's the new beginning in the zodiac. And so that just tells me that there's some sort of creative, passionate, driven thing that's happening and it's a new beginning. It's something that you haven't experienced before. It may even be that you just get like an abundance of energy that comes in February out of nowhere and you start to use that to do things that you're passionate about, do things that are creative, doing like new hobbies. Maybe even for some of you, like a new career or new relationship start coming in February. Now, we talked about this in one of the other groups, but things don't happen just like at the stroke of midnight. Things don't just change like that. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. I mean, I think we all wish it did. But basically, even though the January card is the Empress, that doesn't mean that you have to feel that way like right now. It just means that that's the overall energy in January and that could bleed into, the upcoming months. That could be the overall like you might experience that throughout the year at different times, but that's the start of the year is that energy. And then it leads into this new beginning around February. And then in March, this is very interesting because it's almost like a call to slow down. The 10 of Wands. So anytime you get a 10, it's the end of a cycle. It's the end of basically if you've been feeling this like heavy burdened energy for a while, this is saying like this is going to come to an end, especially when it comes to relationships. It comes to balance, justice, anything that has to do with the seventh house, which is traditionally Libra energy. So your long-term commitments, anything with like business relationships, romantic partners, your best friends, that kind of stuff is if you've been feeling burdened about it, basically that's coming to an end because this is like the closing of a chapter. It's basically like yeah, we may feel like this right now, but there's a promise that we're going to start over with something new and it's not going to feel like this anymore. And so I think that this is kind of energy that's carrying in and I think you're going to be going through multiple things throughout this new beginning. This new beginning isn't just limited to February, is kind of what I'm getting. Like this whole year is kind of a new beginning for you, but it really starts to like move forward in February. And I think that's why you kind of feel this pretty strongly in March, is because you're working through the heaviness that you've been feeling. If you've been feeling heavy for the past like year or more, you're kind of working through that and you're coming out on the other side of it and you're learning how to balance. Basically, again, we talked about how balance is really important for this group. You had the 6 of coins for your year. And so this just shows me that like that balance is starting to come full circle and you're learning, okay, how do I get myself out of this very heavy energy? It's through balance. And you're learning how do I balance like my relationships with my need for myself? How do I balance like nurturing with like the not so nurturing aspects? How do I work with like my work life balance? How do I work with getting out, getting to explore, doing all of that stuff while still also allowing myself the time to be alone and in my own like hermit cave energy. So there's a lot about balancing in order to come out of this 10 of Wands energy.
Mm-hmm. Um, so I only got one more channeled message while we were going through that, and it went back to what earlier when we had the card the Seeker. Spirit was saying that the Seeker for some of you could also mean that you're going to be getting answers this year. So like if you sorry if you hear crinkling, that is my cat. um if you hear like not here, sorry. If you feel like you have been asking a lot of questions or searching for answers for things, like you will probably find those answers this year. Whether they I think no matter what, even if they're quote unquote bad news, they will be the thing that, like Bekah says, sets you free. So you might even be getting some of those answers in March. So, like that 10 of Wands feeling, that could be part of why the heavy burden is lifting, because you're like, oh, I finally got some movement to what I was thinking about or what I needed to know. And now, like, I know, and maybe it does drag you down a little bit, but you're going to be able to overcome it and know that you have like just a whole like future, like a whole chapter ahead of you. So it'll almost be like, even if I feel like for most of you it's not going to be like terrible, horrible, awful news. I don't think that's true for any of you, but I just mean that like whatever it is, for example, say you were really gunning for a job and you were like going through the interview process, and then you find out that you didn't get that job, and like you're like, oh, I really needed that job, but then you never know, like April there could be a brand new job. So like that's actually better. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like if you get some type of no in March, like some type of answer that you don't necessarily like, just know that it's for a reason, because there is something better. Is kind of basically the what I'm saying.
I definitely agree with that. The other thing, while Helena was talking, that I was being brought attention to is we start with the 10th house, which 10th house also has to do with career and reputation and foundation. But this basically, what I'm being shown is it means that you're starting the year off exactly where you're meant to be, because we start in Capricorn season every year in January. And Capricorn is the ruler of the 10th house traditionally. And so this is saying like you're starting right where you need to be, basically. And so you're right on track, you're on the path, you're doing exactly what you need to do. And I think that's an important message for some people, because some of you may not feel like you are, but you are on the path that you're meant to be on. And this is just kind of like that confirmation of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, we're going to move into the second quarter of the year. And so this is going to be April, May, and June. And so I'm going to lay them out. So, April, you have the Four of Cups, and that came out with it came out with tension, which is square, semi-square, and quincunx, which are all tension placements, or tension aspects, I should say, in astrology. For May, you have the Magician, which is gorgeous, and that came out with progressions, or journey. And then in June, you got the Hierophant, and that came out with the third house of communication.
Okay, so let's break this down here for a second. Okay, so April, this is kind of what I think part of what I was picking up on a little bit. The Four of Cups traditionally is kind of like a person that is looking very apathetically at the cups that they have, and they're not seeing like just like they're that's the basic word for it. They're apathetic. They're like like so like again, you could experience that 10 of Wands feeling, that slow down in March, and in April it might kind of happen as well in April, like where things are a little bit slow, or maybe you have your answers, but then you're like, now what? Like, what do I do with that? But what you can see from that, what was the card underneath it, Bekah?
It's tension, so I
Okay,
showed
yeah.
that too.
So you're going to feel tension, conflicted, but I think it's going to be, again, a good tension because it's going to like push that, whatever it is that needs to happen is going to like propel it forward. Because you can see that like with the next month, with May, like you have the magician and progression. Like that's amazing. So there will be some type of, progress. There will be some type of, progress moving forward. You will be The magician is someone who has everything that they need, and they're a master, at manifesting, at creating with all the elements, with everything. And so it's like you being really in sync and like actually like, so whatever happens in March and April, again, like I told you, it is preparing you for what is coming. So the better times will be coming starting in May. And then yeah, and then you have the Hierophant, which again, that is contracts, marriage, uh it can be a teacher, like your wisdom, like there's a lot there. So like for example, if we go back to that job example that I gave, right? You don't get the job that you wanted in March, and then in April you're like, oh, like I'm really stressed, and so you kind of have to like figure out what to do. In May, interview for that new job, da, 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 and then with the Hierophant there, like you could be signing the contract, in June, and then you have this like brand new job. Or again, this could be about that trip, like maybe some trip you have falls through, something else happens, now you have a new trip that you're going on. Or again, it could be with a lease, a house, whatever. There's so many things that this could be with just your work in general, or relationships, anything, but just take it how it applies. And then you have that with the third house. So yeah, with the communication. So there's going to be some type of communication that, gives you either wisdom, or there's a contract, or there is, some type of um it feels very much just like some type of, I know it's not an ace, but it feels like an offer. Like it feels like something that you've been waiting to happen. Like something that, like, yeah, whether that's just like you've been working really hard and you finally like, talk to your boss and you get that promotion somehow, like or someone gives you profound wisdom that really clarifies things for you, or you start a new class and that class ends up being really life changing for you. Or you could be the teacher and you are the one that's going to be communicating with your students, and it just makes you feel really good. You feel kind of like you're right where you need to be. That's very much the focus of your year. Like now that we're very much this year right where you need to be at all times, and that is something for you to remember.
Yeah, definitely. And then I actually wanted to point this out. I don't know if you saw, but there on this deck specifically, there are a lot of birds for this card, but there's one back here. And this is on the cup that this person can't see. Not only that, but you have the birds that are all kind of like like all up in each other's business on this card because there's tension. And then I wanted to note that because if you look over here, Lena talked about an offer communication. The third house is two birds that are like talking to each other. And so again, birds are really important, but the reason I'm pointing that out is because whenever I read this card specifically, like me, this always tells me there's something coming that you can't see. That's exactly what this card means to me. And I know that's not the traditional meaning of this card, but when I look at the Four of Cups, that's usually what meaning I put behind it specifically, which I read just, intuitively. So it's different. But this is telling me that whatever this thing is potentially could be coming in this month of June. And so you can't see it in this month, but in June it's going to be making itself known. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from the imagery at least.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly because um the first of all, interestingly enough, we even have color we can play with here. So like that cup is red, and then you have that person standing there and the curtains behind them are red. So it's kind of like what is behind the curtains will be revealed. Like you kind of have that color that you're playing with there. And so I completely agree. Like you can't see what is behind you, but then the curtains will part and you'll be like, oh, like that's what I see.
Exactly. So that leads us into the third quarter. So this is going to start with July, obviously. So it's July, August, and September. And so in July, you have the Four of Coins. And then that's clarified by the second house of resources. And then in August, you have the Eight of Coins, clarified by Taurus. So money is focused for summer, it looks like. And then September, you have the Knight of Coins with Sagittarius expand. And so this is a really interesting energy because a lot of it is focused on stability. I don't necessarily think it's as much finances, which it might be for some of you, but for me, this talks about stability because you have the Four of Coins, which sometimes the Four of Coins can mean that you're holding on to things too tightly. But when, again, I have a different meaning for this. So with the Four of Coins, I usually take it literally as like hold on. And so basically, what that means for me when it comes out with the second house of resources, I do think that that's going to be a focus for you in July is your resources, like your material things. The material world might be really important, but I feel like there's this call to basically make sure that you are investing in things that you want to invest in, and not only with money but time and energy and feelings and things like that. There's a call to kind of evaluate that and make sure that you are waiting when you need to wait and not just jumping into stuff because somebody told you you should or because it feels like the quote unquote right thing to do. Basically, there's this need to hold on and to kind of make sure that you're taking stock of what you're doing with your resources, and like I said, not just money, like with your energy in general. Now, that leads us into the next month, which is the cultivate month. The Eight of Coins is about working. It's about working really hard and that work being recognized. And when you have that with Taurus of cultivating, like that shows me that it's going to be a more abundant month. And so, because of the fact that we have that hold on with your resources leading into a month where you're working and you're cultivating, that's telling me if you hold on, you're going to go into this very abundant month. Because even though this Eight of Coins is like, she looks a little rough because she's been working for a long time, but look at all the birds that are taking off in the background, first of all. And this has a bird on it too. So, again, pointing out birds. But this just shows me that like you have been putting in the work when it comes to whatever stability you're working on, and you're going to be cultivating basically the rewards from the effort that you've put in. And so this is just saying like don't settle for anything that you should like that you are like, oh well, I've been working really hard on this and so like maybe I need to do this or this. But just let yourself kind of go with the flow and allow yourself to be grounded and to be rooted and to know that if there's something that you're passionate about, if there's something that you've been working really hard on, like don't give up on it, and just make sure that you're putting in the effort that you are wanting to put into something, regardless of what anybody else says or what society says, or if it seems realistic or XYZ, because you're going to cultivate from whatever it is that you're working on. Now, again, we have more focus here on stability because you have your Knight of Coins. The Knight of Coins is the slowest moving knight, yes, but he's also the most stable knight. When the Knight of Coins shows up, it tells me that there's some foundational stuff that is moving forward, and maybe it's taking a little bit longer than you would like it to, because let's be honest, like we all would love it if we could be stable and not have to worry about like going through like the ups and downs that come with that. But this is just telling me that patience is paying off because you have that expansion. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter or vice versa. And basically, Jupiter is about expansion and it's about abundance and it's about luck. And so when Sagittarius comes into play, it is slightly different because it's the sign and not the planet, but it has to do with like philosophy, higher learning, things like that. But it's still expansion, it's still exploration. And so what this tells me is that because of the fact that you're being patient and you're working through things at a pace that's good for you, regardless of if it's good for anyone else, you're going to have a huge expansion in the month of September. And it's going to really expand not only like your foundation, but your finances, any of like your resources are going to start expanding. I feel like there's a very strong, like, just be patient because things are building over time. And so I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, right? Because like it's hard to be patient, especially when it comes to stability and foundation. But I think that this is a good progression saying, like, yes, our focus is going to be really on like work and foundation and stability, but it's worth it in the end because it's going to make everything expand and it's going to bring to you the stability and the foundation that you really need.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Like, it's so interesting how, like, it was like pentacles after pentacles after pentacles. I was like, wow, like we're really like stability, like resource focused, like the like summer months. And then even going a little bit into fall. So it's very much looking like, but I think that's something that you guys have kind of been looking for. Like this group, it feels very much that you are trying to find your footing. And so I feel like every month in the year, like even when there are little step backs or little setbacks, little things, I think that you're going to find that you're actually able to be really, really, really like blessed. And you'll look back on 2023 and be like, wow, yeah, like I went through all that stuff. And then even what I went through in 2022 was worth it to get to this point, because like now, like the offer that is coming in is not just some offer. It is a stable offer. Like that night is the night who brings the best offer. So like your patience and your persistence pays off.
Mhm. Definitely. The other thing I wanted to mention, I forgot, with this card specifically, there's protection is really big for this group, knowing that you're protected and guided. This is a vulture, yes, and the vultures are very resourceful creature. Like it is a very like protective, resourceful. It's a bird of prey, but it doesn't prey on living things. And so it's kind of one of those things of you are protected from anything happening to you. And so again, this is about holding on and knowing that like things are going to pay off, things are going to work out because you have that divine protection and you know how to be resourceful and you know how to use your resources correctly for yourself.
Hmm.
Now,
For
we're
some
going to
of you, while Becca is shuffling out the next thing, um, for some of you with the Four of Pentacles, there's going to be a fear that you're working through that month of like not having enough. And it's not that like you're being greedy or stingy or anything like that. It's that there's this maybe this fear that you have to work through of like, because I almost like those are, you know, your values, your money, things like that. There's something that I think at that time that maybe you want, and it would be a little bit of an investment, and you're kind of afraid to bet on yourself. And I think that's also where the protection message comes in, because you're protected. So again, trust yourself, because you're going to know if it's right for you. But if it feels right to invest on yourself and you're just afraid, then bet on yourself.
what we're going to do is we're going to get into the last quarter of the year. And so this is going to be October through December. And so we're going to start with October. In October, we have the 6 of Wands. And then that was clarified by trine or sextile, which is symbiosis. I always feel like I'm going to say that word wrong, especially now that we're in Mercury retrograde. In November, we have the 7 of coins. And that came out with Pisces, sensitize. And then in December, we have temperance. And that came out with descendant, which is invitation. And that's the beginning of your 7th house in astrology.
Okay. So, group 4, let's get into your last quarter of the year. Okay, first of all, starting out October with a huge win. Like, 6 of Wands is like some type of recognition. This can be, for some of you, you know, this could be fame, but for me, this just feels like a victory. Like, this is the victory card. This is the card of like where everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you know, so like maybe there's some goal potentially that you set at the beginning of the year, or that you've been working on since even last year. And October is the month where like you reach it, like you crush that crap, is what I just heard your guys say, but they didn't say crap. Um, and you know, like to have that with trine, like trine is one of the most harmonious aspects that you can get in astrology. So it's like this thing that you accomplish, like with a trine, it's like a harmonious aspect between three different placements. So whatever it is that you're accomplishing affects you in multiple places in your life. So like say that your goal again was that new job. You got that job, and that made your finances better, so you were able to buy your new home. And then because of that, you were able to buy yourself new clothes, so now you feel more confident. Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's like a ping pong effect of like where this energy goes that just makes you feel so good. So like in October, like you're going to be really feeling yourself. And then with November, there's a little bit of like a because the 7 of coins, like this is like when you're planting your seeds. So there is like something new that like you're like, yes, I did this, I accomplished this goal, I crushed it, like I'm ready. And you're just like you're going right into it in November. And like you're that's just sensitizing, right?
Yes, sensitize.
Yeah, so like you're going into this thing, I think, like with your whole heart, and like you're dreaming about it, you're feeling into it, like you're planting the new seeds like that. In this particular card, like it looks like they're cooking a stew, so it's like you're adding in all the ingredients, you're putting in all the intention. So it's like November almost like starts the cycle over for you, but in a good way. Like you're zazzed now, like that. To me, I see that fire and it's big and bright and burning, and that's how you feel. Like you're like, yes, like I'm ready to like put myself out there. And like what the heck? Temperance, like that is about like waiting, divine timing, and then you have invitation to go with it. So like potentially the thing that you want could come the next month, or there will be some invitation again that leads you down the path. Like there's just like with all those arms in the photo, like there's just so many things like that are like, to me that feels like so many offers that you're maybe potentially looking at, like, oh look, I could do this, I could do this, I have like you're just gonna be invigorated. Like that's how I feel. Like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to go run a marathon right now. Like that's how my energy feels. So I think that that's how you're going to feel. Like you're gonna be like, yes, I have so much going on. Like things are really good. Like this year, like I conquered that crap. Like I whatever was going on for me in 2022 and whatever little hiccups I found out throughout this year, like I made it. Like I did it. Like I'm here. Like that's very much how it feels like this last quarter, but specifically I think in December when you're reflecting on the year, like you're really going to feel that and you're going to be like, wow, like everything was truly 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 divinely timed, and I feel at peace with like what's going to happen next. And I think that's why like these invitations and things will be coming in, because you're really going to feel at peace with yourself.
Yes, there's also a call to be patient still because the 7 of coins is basically the plant the seeds and wait for it to grow, like you're in the process of growth. And then temperance is also about balance and patience as well. But like Lena said, this is like that again, your whole goal for this year was balance. And so when you have balance come out as the last card, like like a card that's about balance, it just tells me that you really did work through that purpose of this year and you're going to be feeling that at the end of the year. But try to go with the flow as much as possible because you still kind of have to take that patience that you learned about in the middle of the year and remember how to use that and utilize that to your advantage and know that if you do have a lot of things going on and you have a lot up in the air and you're trying to balance a lot, try to slow down if it feels like it's moving too fast sometimes because you are on your own timetable like I said, and just know that every time you plant the seeds they're going to grow. Some of that's going to come to fruition towards the end of the year and then some of it might not yet, but you're going into that new year with all of these things being balanced and with all of these things being in the flow. And that's the important lesson that you're learning is how do I stay in the flow? How do I balance all of this? How do I have patience? How do I work with my energy? And how do I make sure that I am giving and receiving and allowing myself to do both? So, with that being said, I'm going to get into your playlist. So, we're going to draw about, I think, like 5 to 6 songs. And some of these are old, some of them are new. It just kind of depends on what you get. But like I said, if you're interested in what any of the other piles got, there is going to be like an actual like full playlist that we put on our Spotify. And so you can check that out as well. Okay. So I got 7. So you have Euphoria by BTS. It's actually by Jungkook, but you know, BTS. You have My Way by Frank Sinatra. Again, yeah, you're doing it your way, not anybody else's. Seasons by Grace and Chance. You have Shadows by Canyon City. That's Hilarious by Charlie Puth. And it's not focusing super well, but. And then you have Queen by Lauren Gray. Yes, you are going to feel like I'm going to have to do the YouTuber thing. The whole like trying to hold it open. And then the last song that you got was Change Part 2 by RM. And actually, a lot of these are really fitting for you guys because a lot of these are about like doing things in your own way, on your own timing, going with the flow, going with the seasons, but allowing yourself to kind of be in your own power and say what you need and working through that and letting change happen so that you can balance things out and do it your way. And I think that this euphoria is saying like that's how you get to that feeling of euphoria. That's how you get to that place of peace, like Laina said. I'll move those up so you guys can see them.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have just like a whole year of like goodness coming your way, because like even though not every moment is you know going to be great or good, because it never is, right? Like no one has a perfect year, but you're going to feel so fulfilled at the end of next year. So like when you start this year again, if you're starting it feeling a little heavy, like just give yourself the grace. Like Becca said, this year is really all about balance and giving yourself the grace that you deserve so you can get where you need to go, because you're going to get there, because you are exactly where you need to be, like Becca was saying. Like, so if you just follow the flow that she was talking about, like you're going to get to where you need to be, and you'll just feel so great. Like you'll be so happy that you did. So basically, the TLDR for you this year is just enjoy the year, go with the flow, try not to get frustrated with yourself, be patient, and be kind to yourself.
There's a song, sorry, that popped into my head. It's one more that I need to put on your list. The White Winter Hymnal song. It talks about like it's like a Christmas song, and I know that like it's this is a New Year's reading, but I actually really love this song, and I think that for you guys, you might resonate with it if you listen to it. So I recommend looking up the lyrics to it sometime. But I'll also add that to the playlist for you guys as well. But there is some stuff about following the pack. So take that as it resonates. But basically, yes, it's going to be a good year for you. There's going to be ups and downs, just like there are every year, but just follow that flow and you'll get through it just fine. And you'll come out better on the other end, which is good. But if you liked this, please give us a like, hit subscribe, let us know what you thought, leave a comment down below, check out the playlist. If you were drawn to any of the other piles, go ahead and check those out as well. They are all different, very different. So if you're drawn to more than one, it may be that there's multiple things that are happening in your life this year, or there's multiple themes that you need to be aware of. So feel free to pick one. Other than that, we hope to see you in our next video.
Bye.